Chapter 525. If it wasn't for my bloodline, the martial saint wouldn't have been revived so easily. My bloodline contained the blood of the sun-moon dragon, the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, the black tortoise, and the North Star divine beast. When fused together, it had the power of creation and destruction. Gu Qinsha knew that the martial emperor's revival was all because of him. Facing King Wu Yu's question, he answered carefully because the 9 antiques of the Wu clan were not ordinary. If he didn't answer well, they would suspect him of siding with the martial emperor. The 9 antiques would definitely suppress and kill Wu Dangxing. Gu Qinsha might not be able to escape from the martial saint's paradise. Even though he was wandering around and speaking frankly with assurance, and he'd obtained a great deal of benefits, he was actually in an extremely dangerous situation. It was equivalent to him moving about amidst numerous formidable existences with an insignificant body, and the slightest bit of carelessness would cause him to be killed. This was completely a case of seeking wealth amidst danger. His current cultivation was still too weak against the 9 deities and the martial saint's paradise, especially the martial saint's paradise, which contained a lot of world energy. Even the deities of the Wu clan's fallen deities didn't dissipate and were all stored in the martial saint's paradise. This was the benefit of the martial saint's paradise. When a deity died, they would dissipate from the world. However, if they died in the martial saint's paradise, the energy would fuse with the paradise, making it more stable and powerful. This was the power of the great clans. Ancestors, no matter what, the martial emperor still has the bloodline of our Wu clan. We can't let him stir up trouble outside or even go against our Wu clan. At this moment, Gu Qinsha spoke in an orderly manner, but this person is indeed ambitious. He wants to unify our Wu clan to complete his so-called hegemony. What does this mean to all the ancestors? I'm thinking of tricking him into the martial sacred chamber and suppressing him. I'll refine all of his capabilities and deprive him of his Tao of outliers, allowing him to become the spirit of our martial sacred chamber. Not only will the strength of our martial sacred chamber improve tremendously, we'll also be able to get rid of the hidden danger, and acquire the martial monarch's memory and the dragon nurturing mantra, allowing our Wu clan to stand a chance against the legalism school? Alright. King Wu Yu nodded. Wu Dangxing, you are indeed wholeheartedly thinking for our Wu clan. You are worthy of praise. However, since a martial emperor has become a divergent, he won't be easy to suppress. If we trick him into the martial saint's cave, we can gather the heroic spirits of the past generations of Wu clan's experts and the accumulation of sacrifices to seal and suppress him. According to your description, he has only recovered to the void creation realm of the 31 changes, so it should be easy to suppress him. Therefore, I thought of a good idea, Gu Qinsha said again. Speak. If you make a great contribution this time, we will definitely reward you. King Wu Yu asked. I've managed to convince Wu Dangkong. She's willing to offer up the Divine Land's 1,000 savage armor, and promised to use the heavenly sacrificial talisman to help the 9 progenitors achieve the godly godhood in the future, allowing the progenitors to obtain the godly seat. However, she wishes to obtain a 10th of the control over the martial saint's chamber, and share the seat with the 9 progenitors. Gu Qinsha quickly explained. What? Wu Dangkong actually dares to raise conditions with us? How dare he? One of the deity-grade old-timers roared. Wu Dakue, don't be impatient. King Wu Yu quickly conversed with the other eminent elders for a full 2 hours. What's the good idea you mentioned just now? Reporting to Ancestor, Wu Dangkong does indeed have the ambition of a wolf and is no different from a martial emperor. Relying on the great luck that she obtained, she dares to look down on Ancestor. This is truly disgraceful, and her intentions are worthy of death. Gu Qinsha knew what he was going to say. This disciple's idea is that old Ancestor might as well agree to the martial emperor and Wu Dangkong's request. Lure them into the martial saint's abode, and let the martial emperor refine the divine prefecture thousand ominous armor. This way, the martial emperor's ability will be further weakened, and the martial emperor and Wu Dankong will be imprisoned. In this way, Old Ancestor will be able to obtain the martial emperor, the divine prefecture thousand ominous armor, all of Wu Dankong's treasures, and the heaven offering decree. Gu Chunsha changed his plan and explained it again. He wanted to create a situation where the martial saint's chamber's depths would be thrown into chaos, and he would be the fisherman to reap the benefits. This way, not only would he obtain all the benefits, he might even be able to play it big. If my plan is executed smoothly without any mishaps, then my sphere of common people's wish might be able to obtain the 9 deities, the martial emperor, and even the entire accumulation of the martial saint's chamber. It might even be able to obtain all of Wu Dankong's treasures. However, it is still a little unrealistic to kill Wu Dankong. Since the heavenly sacrificial talisman acknowledged her, she would have great destiny on her. However, it doesn't matter. Gu Chencha's plan this time was really too big. Once it succeeded, wouldn't the calm immortal department's strength increase by more than 10-folds? Only someone with his breadth of mind would be able to scheme to swallow the entire martial saint's chamber. The martial saint's chamber's current world might not be comparable to the other Dharma realms, but after accumulating for 7 or 8,000 years, countless Wu clan's disciples had sacrificed and prayed, and countless experts had perished in it. In addition, the Wu clan had occupied the entire Wu province's destiny veins, and the martial saint's heroic spirit was hidden within. The massive power it possessed was far from what the sphere of common people's wish could compare to. Although the essence of the sphere of common people's wish was not inferior to the martial saint's chamber, it had suddenly risen up, and its foundation and accumulation were insufficient. It was like the martial saint's chamber was an old noble clan with a marquis, and the clan had accumulated a massive amount of wealth for generations. Meanwhile, the sphere of common people's wish was a commoner who had occasionally made contributions and was conferred the title of a new marquis by the imperial court. They were both marquis and had the same status, but the foundation of their clans was vastly different. The martial saint's chamber had billions of wealth, countless industries, and countless disciples. Meanwhile, the sphere of common people's wish could only be maintained by the imperial court's salary. Without 7 or 8,000 years of foundation and so many years of deity experts' hard work, the gap wasn't something that could be closed in a day or two. Although the calm immortal department's sphere of common people's wish had devoured so many artifacts, it was still lacking in terms of foundation. Gu Chencha's plan to devour the entire martial saint's chamber was like a toad planning to devour an elephant. To outsiders, it might seem inconceivable, but King Wu Yu felt that there was a possibility of success. This plan of yours has great benefits, but it's not without risk. However, with the martial saint's chamber's power, it shouldn't be a problem to suppress a martial emperor at the 31 transformations and Wu Dankong. If it's just the divine prefecture thousand ominous armor, it would only be equivalent to a deity expert, so it wouldn't be a problem to suppress it. The only problem is that the divine prefecture thousand ominous armor is Xing Qiong clan's trap. If Xing Qiong clan descends, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to resist, King Wu Yu said. This disciple has also considered this matter. Gu Chunsha hurriedly said, actually, Wu Dankong also wants to break free from Xing Qiong clan's control. Although she has Xing Qiong clan's support, she knows that she's just a pawn. She wants to borrow Old Ancestor's power to destroy Xing Qiong clan's trap. At the crucial moment, she will activate the Heaven's Sacrifice Decree. Old Ancestor only needs to prepare enough sacrifices. Now that the Devil race has gathered, Old Ancestor only needs to go to the Devil domain to capture many devils as sacrifices. When Wu Dankong uses her soul and flesh as sacrifices, she will activate some great sacrifices to strengthen Old Ancestor. At that time, even if it's Xing Qiong clan's trap, They can be directly cut off and absorbed into the martial saint's chamber. Gu Chunsha started to activate the plan of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He wanted the Wu clan's 9 deity experts to work together to capture devils as sacrifices in the devil domain. This way, the devil calamity would be delayed. As expected, the 9 deity experts were instantly tempted. If it was during normal times, they wouldn't want to enter the devil domain and fight with so many demon god experts. However, if they could use the heaven sacrifice decree to sacrifice themselves, they would be very willing to do so. Very good, we will act immediately. Go and contact Martial Emperor and Wu Dangkong. We must trick them into entering the Martial Saint's chamber. King Wu Yu was also tempted. From their point of view, as long as they could trick them into entering the Martial Saint's chamber, everything would be fine. This. Gu Chunsha hesitated. What do you have to say? King Wu Yu asked. That Martial Emperor is temperamental. Disciple is afraid that he will harm me. I hope that old ancestor will bestow a treasure to prevent disciple from being harmed and protect disciple's safety. Gu Chunsha repeatedly kowtowed, putting on an act. Ha 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 ha. The few deity experts all laughed. You brat, after beating around the bush and saying so much, you actually want to ask for benefits. That's fine, we will give you benefits. For this operation, your strength is too weak. If this plan succeeds, our Wu clan will rise a level. At that time, we will also nurture you. Many thanks, old ancestors. Gu Chunsha was overjoyed. Swords come. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. King Wu Yu made a grasping motion, and 6 divine swords flew over. One was like fire, one was like a river, one was like ice, one was like a golden river, one was like a starry sky, and one was like a black hell. These are 7 divine swords personally forged by the Martial Saint. The one in your hand is called Thunder Slayer, and the other 6 are Flame Slayer, River Slayer, Cold Slayer, Gold Slayer, Star Slayer, and Hell Slayer. When the 7 swords are combined, they can form a sword formation. King Wu Yu said, Of course, your cultivation is still low, and you are unable to use the power of the 7 swords as one. It will be difficult for you to protect yourself from a high god realm expert. However, we will give you another Martial Saint talisman. King Wu Yu made another grasping motion, and a jade talisman appeared in his hand. It was engraved with the image of a palm. The palm was simple, but powerful. When it was stretched out, it seemed as if it could grab the boundless sky and myriad worlds. It was a display of the Martial Saint's domineering might. Of all the saints of the human race, the Martial Saint's combat prowess was without a doubt the strongest. In terms of pure combat prowess, the Dharma Saint was weaker than him. But the Dharma Saint's overall strength was the strongest. His scheming, management, comprehension of heaven and earth, and planning were all above the Martial Saint. Chapter 526. Once the Martial Saint's talisman is activated, even a Martial Emperor would find it hard to escape. However, don't use it unless you're in a dire situation. If you don't use it after this is over, you'll have to return it to the clan. King Wu Yu warned, every talisman created by the Martial Saint has world-shaking power. Over the past few thousand years, our Wu clan has been using them less and less. This is the foundation of our sect. We need to save as much as we can. We might as well use our power to pour world power into the 7 divine swords and carve the talismans. That way, he'll be able to use them multiple times, Wu Dakue said. That's fine. The 9 god rank antiques joined forces, and Gu Chensha's Thundercleaver sword flew up as well. The 7 divine swords spun in the sky like the Big Dipper, endlessly growing and slashing everything in their path. At that moment, the 9 divine level experts activated their world's powers, channeling them into the 7 divine swords. The divine swords burst forth with a brilliant glow. In the end, the 7 swords merged into one and suddenly attacked. Cracks appeared in space. Void Worm. Just then, King Wu Yu called out and a huge wormhole appeared. A huge ancient void worm popped out its head and looked at the 9 divine level experts present. Worm Ancestor, our Wu clan is about to do something big. I hope you can use your void power to refine these 7 divine swords. King Wu Yu was very polite to the void worm. Gu Chunsha knew that the worm of the void was captured by the martial arts saint in the endless turbulence of time and space. The worm was very strange and was an Archean species. If there was such a worm in the small world, it would be very beneficial to the stability of the world. The void worm seemed very unwilling, and after thinking for a long time, it spat out a vast amount of world power. The world power poured into the 7 divine swords, and they began to transform. 7 begets 7, 7 by 7, 49, 10 million divine swords, and then they condensed into 7. Go! The 7 divine swords landed in Gu Chencha's hands, and the void worm disappeared into the wormhole. These void worms are so strong, Gu Chensha thought. They're even stronger than the 9 patriarchs combined. However, it seems they can't command them at all. The last time he entered the martial saint's wonderland, he had already sensed the aura of the immemorial void worm, but he had not seen the true void worm itself. Now that he had finally seen it, he felt that the martial saint's wonderland was extremely rich. However, this was something that he had already anticipated. With his intelligence, if he couldn't even calculate such a thing, then how could he set it up? The 7 divine swords kept on flashing, emitting a tyrannical power that seemed to be able to harm deity-level experts. Gu Chensha nodded to himself. Although the power of each of the 7 swords was great, they could not be considered as treasures of the primordial treasures. There was a huge difference between them and treasures like the 3 Realms Seal and Little Muni's Pagoda. However, when the 7 swords were combined, their lethality increased sharply, and they were not far from those treasures. Gu Chensha once again swindled a good set of treasures. In this martial saint's wonderland, besides the 7 divine swords, there are many other primordial treasures. The Wu clan has collected countless treasures over the years. If I can get them, I can help the 360 common people's marshals gather the treasures. Gu Chensha calculated. These 7 divine swords have been infused with the power of the world. You can activate them, and in an instant, set up a sword formation. Within the formation, a temporary sword martial world will appear. However, it can only last for an hour, but it's enough for you to unleash world-shaking power. King Wu Yu said, "Quickly set up the formation, we'll go to the demon domain to get the offerings." Yes. Gu Chensha left the martial saint's wonderland. He changed slightly, and quietly returned to the common people's wish sphere. This time, he swindled too many things, and there were many restrictions. Among them were the treasures and talismans that he swindled from Gu Tanjian, and also the things that he swindled from Wu Dankong, the talismans of the Wu clan's old ancestor, the martial emperor's talismans, etc. These messy things needed to be properly refined. King's harvest this time is huge. Every time you go out, you can swindle a large number of treasures. Zhuge Ye said. This is all because of the heavenly law. Now that the world is chaotic, there are all kinds of powers mixed together. That's why I can fish in troubled waters. This is our best chance. If we succeed, we can take down the martial saint's wonderland. Gu Chensha said, as long as we take down the martial saint's wonderland, it won't be difficult to take down the world burial coffin. At that time, our common people's wish sphere will be truly indestructible. King's plan this time is very thorough. We have a chance of success. However, it won't be easy to take down the martial saint's wonderland. The success rate isn't very high. Zhuge Ye was also calculating. Of course I know that. However, even if we can't take it down, we can still obtain great benefits. We can take advantage of the chaos to steal the treasures and the world's energy. This will make it easier for us to take down the world burial coffin in the future. Gu Chensha said, Anyway, we won't suffer any losses." As they spoke, Gu Chunxia took out all the talismans and treasures that he had on him. For example, the map of stars, the 1,000-eyed demon sword, the 9 divine swords that he had just obtained, and the martial saint's talisman. He had 3 of the strongest talismans on him. One was the talisman given by Gu Tanjian, the great spirit god. He had never used it. He had been comprehending it, trying to decipher the secrets of the great spirit god. The other one was refined by Chang Weiyang and Wen Hong in Tai Xuandu. Now, he still had the martial saint's talisman. As for the talismans given by the martial emperor, they were much weaker. Let the tree of wishes devour them all. Use my heavenly law to activate them and strengthen the sphere's power. Gu Chunxia moved and a crystal appeared. He laughed coldly. This crystal is used by the martial emperor to control me. The martial emperor will never trust any of his subordinate. But if he wants to control me, he must be dreaming. Wrapped by the heavenly law, the crystal was sent into the tree of wishes. It melted in the blink of an eye. The 1,000-eyed demon sword. Gu Chunxia also let the tree of wishes absorb the demon sword. Contained a huge amount of essence qi. Of course, there was also a curse. Gu Tanjian tried to control Gu Chunxia, but it was useless. Gu Chunxia was good at using curses. After the tree of wishes absorbed it, it grew new branches and leaves. Then Gu Chunxia threw the 7 divine swords into the tree of wishes. He also threw the martial saint's talisman and the great spirit god's talisman into it. Using the heavenly law to activate the tree of wishes, the absorption was done without anyone noticing. The power of the world contained in the magic treasures, talismans, and talismans that he had swindled over the past few days were all absorbed. Even the talismans that Wen Hong, Tai Xuandu, and Chang Weiyang had made were also absorbed. Now, he only had the all-encompassing destruction rod, the fragment of the map of stars, and a heaven-defying mutability pill left on him. The other talismans and treasures were too much for him. He might as well let the tree of wishes absorb them all to increase its strength. When the time came, it could draw the power of the sphere in a breath, which was much more useful than talismans. After receiving such a huge supplement, the tree of wishes suddenly grew taller. Countless rays of light evolved from it. Vaguely, a god seemed to be born within it. It was the god of wishes. This god looked exactly like Gu Chunxia. It seemed to be a clone of Gu Chunxia. When the heavenly demon tree was condensed to the highest level, it would give birth to the 28 constellation Fei god. Finally, it could give birth to the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. When the 4 symbols combined, it would give birth to the North Star god. And the tree of wishes would give birth to the god of wishes. The mysteries of this god were not something that humans could fathom. But now that this god was born, it was only in its embryonic form. It wasn't a real god. Of course, even if it was in its embryonic form, the entire sphere's ability to absorb and refine the power of the world would be greatly increased. The entire sphere had completely lost all traces in the space-time turbulence. Just like Gu Chunxia himself, no one could divine its existence. Good, Zhuge Ye said. Now, our calmness division has a greater chance of success. If we encounter a great change in the world, even our chances of escaping will be greatly increased. Here is a heaven-defying divergent pill. In the end, Gu Chunxia took out a heaven-defying divergent pill. This pill was concocted by the Xingqiong clan. He wanted to turn his subordinates into divergents after consuming it. Unfortunately, he couldn't succeed. His subordinates, god-tier experts, all died after consuming it. However, this pill contains the profound Tao of divergence. It just so happens that the power of the life's wish sphere is at its strongest state. I'll use this sphere to consume this pill and gain a deeper understanding of it. Hopefully, I'll be able to improve further. This pill is very dangerous, but Your Highness need not be afraid. The heavenly Tao arts can make up for everything. Zhuge Ye said, if your highness truly comprehends Divergent, your strength will increase even more. You definitely won't be able to match up to your current strength. I will stand guard here for your highness. Gu Qinsha nodded. Without hesitation, he circulated his magic power and enveloped the heaven-defying mutated pill tightly. Whoosh! It was as if he had just broken through a dangerous world. As soon as the pill was enveloped and melted, countless memories, thoughts, heaven-defying Daos, and even tribulations were triggered. In that instant, Gu Qinsha's entire body turned into a sea of fire. Within the sea of fire, lightning crackled, and light shot everywhere. In fact, one could even vaguely make out countless demons. Even a god-class expert would fall under this tribulation. This was something that the Xingqiong clan had concocted. They wanted to use the power of this pill to turn one into a divergent. Such a heaven-defying act would definitely trigger endless tribulations. Heaven-defying god tribulation? Zhuge Ye was shocked. This sort of tribulation was something that would only happen when a god-class expert broke through to the sage level. After all, be it a god-class expert or a sage, they were strong enough to break the laws of the world. The laws of the world would automatically form tribulations to destroy these existences. To think that a single pill that Gu Qinsha consumed would trigger such a tribulation. Chapter 527. Gu Qinsha really took the risk and swallowed the mutated pill. However, this was not considered a risk for him. This was because he had learned the 72 Divine Prefecture Great Technique, obtained some of the Xingqiong clan's memories, and cultivated the Heavenly Tao Technique. Moreover, he had obtained many talismans and treasures through swindling over the past few days and let the Tree of Desire devour the world energy, causing the embryonic form of the God of Desire to condense on the tree. This way, he was very confident. The talismans that Gu Qinsha had obtained contained the God power of the Great Spirit God, the God power of martial emperors, the saint power of martial sages, etc. Under the power of the Heaven Tao technique, they were all devoured. These powers gathered into a huge wave that could evolve the Tree of Desire once again. The evolving Tree of Desire gave Gu Qinsha confidence. He was confident that after swallowing the mutated pill and digesting it, he would turn it into his own resources and break through to the mutated Tao. A huge tribulation arrived. However, Gu Qinsha was not afraid at all in the tribulation. He let out a long laugh. Ha ha! These tribulations are really good stuff. They can help me refine my body. Instead, they are energy for the wish tree to absorb. Tribulations are used by the Heavenly Tao to kill existences that break the balance. I've cultivated the Heaven Tao technique, so the tribulations can't kill Master. Gu Qinsha used the Tree of Desire and started to absorb the tribulations. Hong long long. The huge tribulations were also a wave of energy and were all absorbed by the Tree of Desire. In the depths of the Tree of Desire, a brand new life essence started to brew. Gu Qinsha, on the other hand, was slowly absorbing the energy and information within the elixir. As expected, this pill contains Xingqiong's deepest comprehension of the Tao of Deviance. In fact, it's so heaven-defying that it could even turn his subordinates into deviants. Sadly, although Xingqiong's heart is higher than the heavens, his strength is still far too inferior compared to the heavenly Taos. Gu Qinsha sighed in his heart as he sensed the boundless stream of thoughts and comprehensions. To many people, Xingqiong was the biggest overlord in the world, but compared to the heavenly Tao, it was nothing. At the very least, the Xingqiong clan's power couldn't compare to the primordial dragon sect, the heaven sacrificial talisman, and the primordial Meng tree. Even the saber energy in the immortal slaying god punishing gourd on the primordial Meng tree could destroy his physical body. Of course, to Gu Qinsha, the Xingqiong clan was still a divine dragon, an ant. The current Gu Qinsha couldn't compare to it. However, This didn't stop the ant that was Gu Chernsha from quietly chewing on the divine dragon's flesh. As he operated, Gu Chernsha abruptly accepted this huge stream of thoughts, the vast information, and will washed over his every thought. If it were any other expert, they would have had a nervous breakdown and dissipated from the world. However, Gu Chernsha could receive almost endless information. Moreover, he had the help of the wishing tree. The vast amount of information and medicinal power contained in the heaven-defying mutability pill fused perfectly with his body. He kept squirming in his body, and his body gave off an aura and smell that did not blend with the world. However, his magic power was very compatible with the world. Divergents were existences that resisted the heavens and the earth, resisting the great Tao. And the heavenly Tao itself was the authority of the heavenly Tao. These two powers were perfectly manifested in Gu Chensha's body. In other words, Gu Chensha's mind was close to that of a divergent, and he was controlling the authority of the heavenly Tao. This was almost equivalent to a successful rebellion. However, Gu Chernsha had not truly become a divergent. He had only taken a step further on the path of enlightenment, and could touch upon the principles of divergent at any time. Another month passed. Ha ha ha! Gu Dusha suddenly changed, turning into a dark cloud that covered the entire grotto heaven. The dark cloud absorbed the energy from an unknown dimension, twisting and changing. In the end, it turned into a downpour, falling down, covering the entire space inside the grotto heaven. Then, it was absorbed by the soil. Heavenly dew. Zhuge Ye said, "This condensed heavenly dew already has half of the effect of the real thing. Using it to nourish the grotto heaven, or even the lesser divine prefecture, will probably far surpass the mystic immortal Tao." Whoosh! Gu Chernsha returned to his human form. This heaven-defying divergent pill, refined by the Xingqiong clan, is truly amazing. Gu Chensha's cultivation level did not increase, and he was still at the myriad river of 22 transformations. However, the density and subtlety of his magic power were many times greater than before, and he could almost no longer feel the call of the heavenly Tao. This way, he could fully unleash his power. Originally, the heavenly dew he condensed in the lesser divine prefecture only had a tenth of its effect, but now it had half of the true heavenly dew's power. If he used this rain on the common people, the plants and flowers would probably become sentient. Generally speaking, plants and flowers would gain spirituality after being nourished by spirit qi in a spirit-gathering formation for many years, and they would flourish. Many of the heavenly dew's functions were not something spirit qi could compare to, and even immortal qi could not compare to it. The heavenly dew contained certain characteristics of the heavenly Tao's creation. Back then, a large part of the reason why Gu Chernsha was able to cultivate quickly and make up for his foundation was because he had consumed large amounts of heavenly dew, which allowed him to quickly master the Son of Heaven investiture art and increase the concentration of the Sun-Moon Dragon blood, which laid a solid foundation. Now that Gu Chernsha was circulating his magic power and turning it into dark clouds, the torrential rain actually had half the effect of the heavenly dew. Even a sage would be horrified to see this. My God, this is even more powerful than the mystiques of our Azure Dragon clan. The little Azure Dragon opened its mouth wide and gurgled, fiercely absorbing the half-dew of the torrential rain. In the past, Gu Chernsha had named it Little Heavenly Dew, but now it seemed like it should be called Half-Dew. The Heavenly Dew was especially nourishing for divine beasts. The Azure Dragon clan itself was the highest crystallization of connate first and second wood qi. Wherever an Azure Dragon lived, all the plants and trees would be divinized, but this could not compare to directly watering the heavenly dew. Even the three heavenly venerables could not be so extravagant as to use the heavenly dew to water the plants and trees. Shwa! The all-encompassing destruction cudgel in Gu Chensha's hand was activated, infusing it with magic power. The cudgel directly stabbed into the void, and then with a tremor, a large piece of space shattered, turning into liquid. In the past, Gu Chernsha had to instill magic power into the cudgel to activate it, and he could only use it a few times. But now, he could casually wave it around, shattering it. Almost no one below the deity realm could do anything to him. The all-encompassing destruction cudgel is indeed a treasure that the god of strength had painstakingly forged. Gu Chernsha stroked the cudgel. This cudgel does not have the ability to refine magic treasures, nor does it have the ability to protect its owner. It will not emit any formation. The only thing it can do is strike, shatter, destroy, and battle. It only has one function, but this is the best. If I am one with the cudgel, I will be invincible. Gu Chernsha had long since analyzed the various magic treasures. In terms of manufacturing, nurturing, speed, and defense, the Three Realms Seal, the Buzhou Palace, and the Little Monk's Pagoda all surpassed the all-encompassing destruction cudgel. As a sect, any one of these items had functions that surpassed the all-encompassing destruction cudgel. For example, the Three Realms Seal could absorb the power of the void and suppress the heavens. The Buzhou Palace could create countless treasures. When a disciple of the Little Monk's Pagoda entered, they would be cleansed by the chanting within. When the scriptures within the pagoda were activated, they could refine inner demons and demons into guardian Vajras. Only the all-encompassing destruction cudgel could shatter the cosmos with a single strike. Disciples could not activate it, nor could they nurture it. It could only be used for battle. But in Gu Chernsha's hands, this magic treasure could obtain great power. With Gu Chernsha's current strength, coupled with this treasure, just based on battle strength alone, even if Gu Chernsha did not use the power of the life's wish sphere, practically no one below the deity realm could kill him. Originally, before he swallowed the heaven-defying mutability pill, he was a little afraid of 27, 28, and 29 transformations expert. But now that his intelligence had increased and his vision had broadened, he felt that those 3 transformations weren't that scary anymore. Only the deity realm was something he couldn't do anything about. But he could break through at any moment. For example, he could break through to the 23rd Tao realm transformation, past reflection. His soul power would change, or he could break through to become a divergent. That would be a huge change. Now, the possibility of him breaking through was much higher than Jingqiu's. I have left some of the things I comprehended from the heaven-defying mutability pill in the wish tree. Mr. Zhuge, Baiwei, and the fourth can all comprehend them. Gu Chernsha pointed at the wish tree. The information he obtained from the heaven-defying mutability pill was too huge, and he couldn't accept it directly. Even if it was Zhuge, his mind would probably explode and his spiritual power would go berserk. Only a sick person like Gu Chernsha, who cultivated the heaven path technique, could accept such a huge amount of information. Zhuge, Lu Baiwei, and the others had to understand, digest, and refine it. Even the green dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and Xuanwu couldn't accept it. Gu Chernsha's body moved once more and he flew out of the common people's wish ball. He changed slightly and when he breathed, he felt like the ball's power was everywhere. Although he didn't have any talismans to protect him, the power to summon the ball at any moment was much stronger than those talismans. After this round of refinement, I have refined all the messy talismans with ulterior motive. There aren't any hidden dangers and I feel really refreshed. Next, I have to do something big. I have to contact Martial Emperor and Wu Dangkong and quickly activate this big event. I have to obtain the Martial Saint's cave as soon as possible. Gu Chernsha knew that there were 2 big events at the moment. The most important one was obviously the World Burial Coffin. However, before obtaining the World Burial Coffin, it would be great if he could obtain the Martial Saint's cave, steal the world's power, and suppress and refine a few deity-level expert. His chances of success would be much higher. After he came out, he transformed into Wudong Xing. At this moment, his transformation was even more exquisite. It was truly flawless and had no flaws. At this moment, he went to look for Wu Dangkong and explain the intentions of the Wu clan's 9 deity-level experts. Chapter 528. Of course, Gu Chensha said. The 9 great antiques want to control all the resources and eliminate all unstable factors. As long as someone from the family threatens their position, they'll immediately suppress that person. Gu Chensha was a man of his own words, and when he saw a ghost, he said a ghost. You still haven't consumed that heaven-defying mutated pill? Wu Dangkong looked at Gu Chensha as if she was trying to find some clues. She was also very worried about this Wudong Xing in front of her. It wasn't because she doubted his identity, but she was afraid that Wudong Xing would take advantage of the situation. According to Wudong Xing's plan, after she obtained the Martial Saint's paradise, it was absolutely impossible for her to share half of Wudong Xing's control. In fact, she already had killing intent in her heart. After obtaining the Martial Saint's paradise, she wanted to kill this Wudong Xing. She could also use it to fuse with the paradise to increase its might. Gu Chensha had long sensed Wu Dangkong's killing intent, but he didn't care. When it came to scheming, he had never been afraid of anyone. He had more or less investigated all of Wu Dangkong's background. It could be said that he knew his enemy as well as himself. Even if there were some minor details that weren't in his calculations, he could still escape unscathed. This pill seized the fortune of heaven and earth, and had the effect of changing fate. How could I dare to casually consume it? I have to carefully study it and only consume it when I am confident. Gu Chensha glanced at Wu Dangkong. You didn't consume it either, right? Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Let's summon the Martial Emperor now and enter the Martial Saint's paradise together. If I enter alone, won't I fall into those old fogies' trap? Wu Dangkong didn't know why, but she suddenly changed her mind. Originally, Gu Chensha's plan was for Wu Dangkong to enter the Martial Saint's paradise first and reach an agreement with the 9 great elders to obtain 1/10 of the Martial Saint's paradise's control before luring the Martial Emperor inside. However, it was reasonable for Wu Dangkong to change his mind now. Wu Dangkong knew that the 9 old fellows of the Wu clan would definitely not give her 1/10 of the control rights, even if she promised them many things. Very well. In that case, I will communicate with a Martial Emperor. As this change was within his control, Gu Chensha did not mind. He immediately summoned the Martial Emperor's talisman and secretly communicated with it. The wishing tree had already swallowed the Martial Emperor talisman and understood the various characteristics of the Martial Emperor talisman. It could create this talisman at any time, allowing him to bluff his way through. Not long after, Martial Emperor tore through space and appeared here. When he saw Wu Dangkong, his face sank. My Wu clan is indeed full of geniuses. Who would have thought that a person with such great luck like you would appear here? Back then, I was unable to obtain the heavenly sacrificial decree, but it actually appeared in your possession. Greetings, Lord Martial Emperor. Wu Dangkong smirked coldly. However, this is the world of the Yonko, and the heavenly talisman emperor is unfathomable. If Lord Martial Emperor were to address himself as emperor again, I'm afraid you'll be captured and killed if the imperial court hears about it. Are you talking about the calming immortal department? Martial Emperor's face twitched unconsciously. He had actually suffered a loss in the hands of Gu Chensha, but how could he say it in front of others? A bunch of juniors, a motley crew. With a few treasures, this emperor can suppress them with a flip of his hand. Lord Martial Emperor is truly too arrogant. Wu Dangkong laughed. The calming immortal department has already become famous. It has become a trend among the people, gathering a huge amount of wish energy. That sphere of the common people's wish isn't just a few random treasures. Instead, as the world's wish energy surged in, it has already become an existence comparable to the Martial Saint's paradise. Their weakness is that they lack a true divine grade expert. They only have good treasures, but they can't unleash their full potential. Martial Emperor's eyes fiercely looked out, once again trying to see through the layers of space to see the sphere of the common people's wish. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find it. What? That sphere has changed again? Martial Emperor was secretly shocked and immediately became extremely vigilant. Lord Martial Emperor, let's talk about our cooperation. It's time for those old fellows from the Martial Saints' Paradise to retreat. This time, let's enter the Martial Saints' Paradise and seize power. Wu Dangkong didn't want to waste any more time and directly cut to the chase. Very well. If we manage to seize the Martial Saints' Paradise, we'll share it. Martial Emperor immediately stated his conditions. At this moment, Wu Dangkong glanced at Wudong Xing and noticed that his gaze was very unnatural. He immediately laughed in his heart. This kid colluded with Martial Emperor, but Martial Emperor didn't take him seriously. He didn't even mention his benefit. No wonder he wanted to send Martial Emperor to his grave. However, Martial Emperor's promise to me was just a lie. This emperor is harsh and merciless. He basically doesn't give his subordinates any benefits and rules the world with harsh laws. I'll just pretend to be courteous with him for now. Once we enter the Martial Saints' Paradise, we'll use our own methods. Wu Dangkong had his own thoughts, and so did Martial Emperor. Alright. Wu Dangkong agreed. If we join forces, we'll definitely be able to obtain the Martial Saints' Paradise. Then let's not delay and head there directly. Martial Emperor said to Gu Qinsha, Wudong Xing, quickly lead the way. Yes, Your Majesty. Gu Qinsha bowed obediently. He took the lead and flew towards the center of the Martial Province where the Wu clan's 5 mountains were located. About an hour later, they saw 5 towering mountains in the distance. Yenwu Mountain, Yuanwu Mountain, True Martial Mountain, Martial Transformation Mountain, and Extreme Martial Mountain. Gu Qinsha was the first to land on Yuanwu Mountain in the center. Wu Dangkong and Martial Emperor followed behind him and landed in front of the main hall on the mountain. At this time, there were many elders cultivating in front of the main hall. However, they were all gone now. It seemed like they had all entered the Martial Saints' Paradise. The 9 old antiques must have noticed Martial Emperor and Wu Dangkong's arrival. Let's go in. Martial Emperor sneered. He saw that the huge whirlpool in the main hall had already opened and a thought was transmitted from it. Martial Emperor Wu Dangkong, come in. You are also members of the Wu clan. It is reasonable for you to enter the Martial Saints' Paradise today. Let's go. Wu Dangkong suddenly grabbed Gu Qinsha and exchanged a glance with Martial Emperor before stepping into the whirlpool that led to the Martial Saints' Paradise. The heavens and earth rotated and space-time wriggled. The 3 of them entered the Martial Saints' Paradise. Gu Qinsha discovered that the paradise seemed to have become austere. He could vaguely see some kind of formation being set up. It was obvious that it was targeted at Martial Emperor and Wu Dangkong. King Wu Yu and the rest of the 9 god-level experts stood in various positions. King Wu Yu, you told this brat that you want me to return to the Wu clan to govern. Does it count? Martial Emperor seemed to have his own plans after entering the Martial Saints' Paradise. He was not afraid and was calm. It was obvious that he had a great trump card. Wu Dangkong said, 9 old ancestors, do you agree to my agreement? Of course. You are an outstanding disciple of our Wu clan. You are blessed by the heavens. Moreover, you have to contribute the Divine Prefecture 1000 ominous armor. We will definitely give you a seat. Same goes for Martial Emperor. King Wu Yu said, the world is in chaos. Our Wu clan is the descendant of the Martial Saint. We must be united in order to survive the calamity. We must not have internal strife. Of course. Although Martial Emperor said this, everyone knew that it was only a matter of time before they fell out. What should we do now? I have become an anomaly and should be able to gain control of the Martial Saints' Paradise. With me refining the Martial Saints' Paradise, it will definitely obtain the greatest benefit. Moreover, I have the dragon nurturing mantra and will nurture all the Wu clan's disciples into geniuses. Let us first discuss the control of the martial saint's paradise. The Wu clan is distributed according to the will of the martial saint. King Wu Yu's expression did not change. Whoever contributes more will obtain more control. Martial Emperor, you have just entered the paradise. You must contribute more before you can obtain the martial saint's spirit's approval. Looks like we should follow the agreement? Martial Emperor said. Wu Dangkong, release the divine land 1,000 ominous armor. I will refine it and merge it with the martial saint's paradise. This is equivalent to the paradise devouring a deity-level expert. That way, my contribution will be sufficient. Yes, that's the agreement. King Wu Yu said. Wu Dangkong, release the divine land 1,000 ominous armor. A cold smile appeared on Wu Dangkong's face. He waved his hand and a ball of light appeared. Within the ball of light was a suit of armor. This suit of armor was pitch black and gave off an endless amount of ferocious aura. The baleful aura shook the entire martial saint's paradise. However, it was only baleful aura. The armor had not fully awakened yet. At this moment, Wu Dongkong's thoughts traveled into Gu Chencha's ears. You know the divine land's great art. Later, use the divine land's great art to activate the armor. When the armor reveals its true power, it will definitely cause chaos in this place. I know. Gu Chensha thought to himself. This Wu Dangkong saw me using the divine land's great art and purposely asked me to activate the armor. I'm afraid that once the armor is activated, the evil spirit will awaken and devour me first. As for you, Wu Dangkong and Xing Qiongshi, the armor won't be able to do anything to you. He had a deep understanding of the divine land 1,000 ominous armor. In the devil domain, the divine land 1,000 ominous armor on Jiang Qi's body and Xing Qiongshi were still killing demons and preparing the altar. This divine land 1,000 ominous armor was even more mysterious. Xing Qiongshi had secretly attached his will to it in order to pry into the power of the Sun-Moon altar. If I obtain this armor and use the Tree of Wishes to absorb it, the deity of wishes on the Tree of Wishes would immediately take form. That would be equivalent to a deity-level expert. My Calmness Immortal department would also have a deity-level expert. Moreover, the deity of wishes has many tricks up its sleeves. It's different from the original spirits of other magic treasures. In the end, we are two separate entities. Gu Chensha was also drooling over the divine land 1,000 ominous armor. Previously, he didn't manage to obtain the peerless heavenly scripture. Now that he had obtained the divine land 1,000 ominous armor, it should be enough to make up for his loss. This is the divine land 1,000 ominous armor? Let me refine it. The martial emperor's eyes lit up when he saw the armor. Chapter 529. The martial emperor was naturally the first to use his powers to wrap up the divine prefecture 1,000 murderous armor. He was not an ordinary god realm, but an anomaly. He had been reborn, and although he had not recovered all of his strength, he had more insights than before. Not only was he able to use the power of the world, but he also had many more mysteries. A majestic Tao of monarch's world energy flowed and wrapped up the divine prefecture 1,000 murderous armor. The martial emperor then punched out. I trample the world, I fight as a king, I rule the world, I am favored by the heavens. This punch shook the mountains and rivers, and it was as if countless people in the air were shouting, "Long live the emperor." This punch truly displayed the might of the martial emperor. This person was able to dominate the world and unify the world back then. It was definitely not a fluke. Now that he had returned, he was even stronger than before. When Gu Chensha saw this punch, he knew that the martial emperor was much stronger than the Peerless Book. Back then, he used the power of the People's Wish Sphere to fight the Peerless Book, but now he was probably not the martial emperor's match. Of course, if Gu Chernsha hid in the sphere, the martial emperor would not be able to do anything to him even if he was many times stronger. This martial emperor has hidden many methods and is unfathomable. I have underestimated him. But my vision is different from before. As soon as this martial emperor uses his fist technique, I can see through many things. After Gu Chernsha consumed the mutated pill, his vision became much higher. It was as if he was standing on Xing Qiongshir's shoulder, and he could see everything and everyone from a high vantage point. The punch landed on the divine prefecture 1,000 murderous armor, and the armor seemed to be unable to withstand it. The black qi dissipated and the evil spirit wailed. We must not let the martial emperor refine this armor. At this time, King Wuyu saw this and knew that the martial emperor was extremely strong, even stronger than them. With just a wave of his hand, it was as if an ancient emperor had descended upon the world. Although the martial emperor had never received the heaven sacrifice talisman, he had unified the world. And at his peak, he was even stronger than Emperor Gu. Now that he had comprehended the mutated Tao, he had the grandeur to change the heavens. When he punched, the gods and demons retreated, or they would be turned to dust. Ha 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 ha, martial monarch, you can suppress the ferocious spirit within the armor. Let us completely melt it and bring it into the depths of the martial saint's paradise. The 9 deity-level antiques laughed at the same time, then unleashed the power of their worlds at the same time, wanting to refine the armor before the martial emperors did. They had absolute control over the martial sacred chamber, thus they were confident that they could suppress the martial monarchs. Get lost! All of a sudden, a door appeared above the martial emperor's head. The door exuded an ancient, primordial aura. There seemed to be tens of thousands of dragons circulating inside, the sun, moon, and stars. Everything in the world was gathered inside. Could absorb all things in the world, and it could also spit out all things in the world. In the blink of an eye, the power of the 9 patriarchs was completely absorbed by the portal. Chaotic Dragon Sect. King Wu Yu shouted, "This is the Chaotic Dragon Sect." That's right, this is one of the true essences of the Great Desolate Dragon Gate. Back then, I entered the Great Desolate Dragon Gate. Although I didn't go any deeper, I spent a lot of effort to communicate with the great and vast will of the Dragon Gate. In the end, I gathered the divine continent's Son of Heaven Qi and injected it into the depths of the Great Desolate Dragon Gate in exchange for this true essence. It could transform into a small prehistoric dragon gate and absorb all attacks. This was the perfect time to use it. It was a talisman refined by the will of the Chaotic Dragon Sect. What martial saint? What Dharma saint? What Xing Qiong clan? What 3 celestials? What are they compared to the Chaotic Dragon Sect? At this point, the martial monarch finally revealed his invincible might. The aura of the Raging Dragon Sect instantly shook the entire martial saint paradise, causing the entire paradise to tremble. It was as though the martial emperor had become the only ruler of this place at this moment. A talisman refined by the Chaotic Dragon Sect. So that's how it is. Gu Chernsha now understood everything. The martial monarch had created the Dragonized Pagoda and used the power of the entire nation to offer sacrifices to it, all in exchange for the Chaotic Dragon Sect's aura. This talisman was one of those things. In ancient times, the heavenly emperors used the aura of the heavenly Tao to offer sacrifices to the heavenly Tao. But the martial monarch had done the exact opposite, offering sacrifices to the Chaotic Dragon Sect. Obviously, after he unified the world, he didn't get the heavenly Tao talisman and felt that he was abandoned by the heavenly Tao. Therefore, he offered sacrifices to the Chaotic Dragon Sect, which allowed him to communicate with the Chaotic Dragon Sect. At this moment, the talisman that the martial emperor was using was something he had obtained from the emperor's aura that he had obtained when he unified the world. He had sacrificed it to the Great Desolate Dragon Gate and obtained it from the Great Desolate Dragon Gate. The talisman was firm, vast, primordial, and vicissitudes. Indeed, the martial saint, Dharma saint, 3 celestials, Xing Qiong clan, and the deities who had obtained the god seat in the immemorial era, such as the sorcerer ancestor, all of them paled in comparison to the chaotic dragon sect. The talisman refined by these people was extremely powerful. But what about the talisman refined by the chaotic dragon sect? At this moment, Gu Chernsha already knew why the martial monarch was so calm and confident when he entered the martial saint's paradise. It was because he knew that he had the means to break everything with brute force. Damn it, the martial monarch is really extraordinary and unfathomable. Although I calculated that he definitely had more than what he showed on the surface, I didn't expect him to have the power to suppress the martial saint's paradise. Gu Chernsha was extremely shocked, but he didn't panic. Instead, he rejoiced. If the martial monarch used this talisman to deal with our celestial tranquility department's sphere of people's wishes, we would probably be robbed. However, the martial monarch is also afraid. He is very afraid of the Emperor Regal token that Father left behind, because he knows that Father is much stronger than the chaotic dragon sect. Everything is still under my control. Although the talisman of the chaotic dragon sect is tyrannical, it won't be that easy to eliminate Xing Qiong clan's plan. Moreover, there is a variable here, and that is the heavenly Tao talisman. Gu Chernsha said fiercely, Wu Dangkong, quickly cooperate with the 9 great ancestors. 9 great ancestors, take out the demonic souls you captured from the demon domain and let Wu Dangkong sacrifice them to resist the martial monarch's refinement. Brat, I knew you would betray me. Die. The martial monarch looked over and was about to kill Gu Chernsha. However, at this moment, the most ferocious aura from the divine land 1,000 ominous armor that was about to be melted suddenly erupted. Chaotic dragon sect. There seemed to be something in the depths of the divine land 1,000 ominous armor that was transforming. Xing Qiong clans will appeared. The armor was changing inch by inch, and it was actually 10 times stronger than before. This is not the divine land 1,000 ominous armor, this is the divine land 1,000 ominous armor. Wu Dangkong said fiercely. That's right, this is the divine land 1,000 ominous armor. It's just Xing Qiong clan disguised as the 1,000 ominous armor. Gu Chernsha said fiercely to Wu Dangkong, the situation is getting out of hand. Xing Qiong clan's will and arrangements were awakened. The disguised divine land 1,000 ominous armor turned into the 1,000 ominous armor, and its power increased by 10 times. A huge diagram of the divine land appeared in the void. This was Xing Qiong clan's anger. Divine Land Grand Art, 99 layers. Xing Qiong clan used the 99 layers of the Divine Land Grand Art, and with the Divine Land 1,000 ominous armor as a coordinate point, he charged into the martial saint's paradise from the depths of the endless space. It's not the real chaotic dragon sect, but just a talisman of the dragon sect. Even the immortal slaying, immortal exterminating gourd condensed from the primordial tree can't kill me now. The chaotic dragon sect is still a bit weaker than the primordial tree. Xing Qiong clans will float out. But you can be proud that you forced my arrangements to appear. The 99 layers of the Divine Land Grand Art surged out and clashed with the chaotic dragon sect's talisman. Immediately, the entire martial saint's paradise was destroyed. Similar to the legalism's world of Dharma, the depths of the martial saint's paradise trembled violently, and the power of the world became chaotic. Gu Chernsha suddenly disappeared. Using this opportunity, he began to steal the treasures and power of the world in the martial saint's paradise. Where did Wu Dangxing go? Wu Dangkong directly entered the sun-moon altar of the sacrificial talisman. No attacks could do anything to her. However, in the moment of chaos, she could no longer sense where Wu Dangxing went. Immediately, she began to communicate with King Wuyu. King Wuyu, hurry up and give me control over the martial saint's paradise. I will activate the sacrificial talisman to strengthen the martial saint's paradise and bury the martial emperor and Xing Qiong clan here. At this time, the paradise was filled with surging power of the world. It was a blur. Gu Chensha could sense the power of the life's wish sphere. He secretly wrapped himself in it and absorbed the power of the world in the martial saint's paradise. At this time, he didn't care about the fight between Wu Dangkong, the 9 deities, the martial emperor and Xing Qiong clan. In any case, the more chaotic it was, the more suitable it was for him to steal. The power of worship accumulated in the martial saint's paradise for 7,000 to 8,000 years has been converted into the power of the world. It's so pure. If it wasn't for the Xing Qiong clan and the martial emperor starting a fight and messing things up, how could I have stolen the power of the world? At this moment, Gu Chensha's body had already communicated with the sphere of the people's wish. His cultivation base was much stronger than when he had stolen all the Dharma realms. Moreover, the life's wish sphere was much more mysterious. He secretly inhaled. Instantly, the accumulated power of the world in the martial saint's paradise was like a river, sucking it all into the sphere. At this time, Zhuge Ye was still cultivating in the sphere. He saw a crack appear in the sky above the Tree of Wishes. The power of the world cascaded down like a waterfall and was absorbed by the Tree of Wishes. Finally, it seeped into the sphere. Every time it absorbed it, the sphere would gain years of accumulation. This way, the sphere will soon fuse with all the treasures and turn into a minor kiliacosm. It might even advance into a medium kiliacosm. Zhuge Ye knew that the world of the paradise was divided into minute dust world, minor kiliacosm, medium kiliacosm, boundless world. Chapter 530. Almost all the saint family's grotto heavens were classified as minor kiliacosms. It was the same for the mystical immortal Tao sects. Even the mystical sect of the universe, which Chang Yuzhou had founded, had only been a minor kiliacosm after so many years of operation. It had yet to advance to a medium-class world. Among the 72 mystical immortal Tao sects, only the first-ranked mystical gate of heaven-earth was a medium-class world. This was also why the mystical gate of heaven-earth had always been ranked first. The ancient Buddha had once divided the world. It was said that 1,000 microscopic worlds were equivalent to a minor kiliacosm, 1,000 minor kiliacosms were equivalent to a medium kiliacosm, and 1,000 medium kiliacosms were equivalent to a large kiliacosm. It was extremely difficult to turn a microscopic world into a minor kiliacosm. For example, if a god created his own world and worked hard to condense the world into a physical form, it would be a microscopic world. If he wanted to become a minor kiliacosm, that wasn't something he could do. He had to establish a sect and nurture many deity-level experts. Generation after generation, after over 1,000 years of accumulation, and transformation, it would finally become a minor kiliacosm. The power of a minor kiliacosm was immense. It encompassed an area of space and could easily trap god-level experts. Among the many aristocratic families in the divine continent, only the school of legalism's warlock saint had returned and wanted to elevate a minor kiliacosm to a medium kiliacosm. Gu Chensha had entered the school of legalism to steal the power of the world and 6 Dharma treasures. It just so happened that 13 god-level experts had wanted to elevate their warlock saint. They had borrowed the power of the world's advancement to revive the warlock saint. However, because Gu Chensha had stolen 6 treasures and a lot of world power, as well as the damage caused by the arrival of the great spirit god and the sorcerer ancestor, he had not succeeded in the end. He was still at the border between a minor kiliacosm and a medium-class world. The legalism had collected those treasures because they wanted to use their materials to shatter them during the advancement and fuse them into the grotto heavens to strengthen the foundations of the world. However, Gu Chensha had secretly taken advantage of them. In the 72 mystical immortal Tao sects there had been a rule. Only sects with a minor kiliacosm were qualified to enter. Apart from that, Not even God-level experts could enter. God-level experts created microscopic world. It was still too early for them to become minor kiliocosms. Metaphorically speaking, the minute dust world was like a cultivator who had just stepped into the first transformation of the Tao realm. On the other hand, those in the small world had cultivated the glass jade body. The gap between the two was obvious. The ancient Supreme Buddha once said that only 1,000 tiny worlds could compare to a small kiliocosm. The tranquil immortal department's common people's wish sphere was about to be promoted to a minor kiliocosm. Its essence was sufficient, and the power of the world was abundant. All it lacked was a deity-level expert to take care of it. This was like a rich man preparing a huge pile of top-notch ingredients, such as bear paws, monkey brains, bird's nest, ginseng, and so on, but he still lacked a top chef to cook these top-notch ingredients into a delicacy. This was actually the greatest flaw of the calming immortal department. The people of the calming immortal department knew this, and so did the other experts. This was also the reason why the martial emperor wanted to seize the martial saint's paradise first. The martial saint's paradise was a minor kiliocosm that the martial emperor himself didn't have. The martial emperor was now at the 31st transformation, the realm of creating things out of nothing. He could create his own tiny world, but there was no other way to turn the tiny world into a minor kiliocosm. He had to slowly accumulate it for several thousand years, and he also had to painstakingly manage it. He simply did not have that much time. This was why he wanted to snatch the martial saint grotto heaven. This time, Your Highness has once again stolen a massive amount of world energy from the martial sage's grotto heaven. Our celestial tranquility department has accumulated enough, so it's time for the final transformation to transform into a minor kiliocosm. Only then will we be able to truly compete with the mystical immortal Tao sects, and even surpass most of the mystical immortal Tao sect. Originally, the Book of Heavenly Demon was already at the level of a minor kiliocosm, but it's a pity that the ancient demon race sages who created this book perished one after another. The book itself has encountered many tribulations and degenerated into a tattered state. Goddess Hugu established a sect and gathered incense and faith in order to restore this book, but it's still beyond her capabilities. Our celestial tranquility department has fused countless Dharma treasures into it, transforming it into the will of the people's sphere. Zhuge Ye calculated carefully. Suddenly, his body shone brightly and he actually broke through to the undying body of the Tao Realm 25 transformation. This time, it was all thanks to the heaven-defying outlier Pil Gu Churnsha had left behind in the Tree of Wishes. The Lord of Seven Stars was the most powerful of the saints, and in truth, she had also been inspired by the heavenly Taos. Furthermore, Gu Chensha's experience in resisting the heavenly Taos had been especially beneficial to Zhuge Ye. As Zhuge Ye revolved the sphere, he could feel that it was about to level up. The power of the world enveloped his magical power, which would naturally allow his magical power to be perfected and level up to the undying body of the 25th transformation. Within the Common People's Wish Academy, Lu Baiwei was also meditating. She could communicate with the Common People's Wish sphere at any time and borrow its power to temper herself. She had also obtained the heaven-defying outlier Pil Gu Churnsha had left behind in the Tree of Wishes. She was slowly refining and absorbing it, gaining a lot of insight. Large amounts of world power flowed into the sphere. As one of the creators of the sphere, she felt the benefits were enormous. Ever since Churnsha cultivated the heavenly Taos, he's been gathering resources from all over the place. The entire sphere's advancement is almost inconceivable. It's saved us thousands of years of bitter cultivation. Lu Baiwei sighed inwardly. Suddenly, she had an epiphany, and her body flickered. There seemed to be a vast bloodline in her body that was slowly being activated. This was a bloodline bestowed upon her by the heavenly talisman Emperor. Although she wasn't the heavenly talisman emperor's daughter, bestowing a bloodline wasn't a problem. I've finally grasped onto something. Within the martial saint's paradise, Gu Chunsha was constantly stealing the enormous amount of world power stored within. He could sense that this paradise's reserves were practically limitless, not the slightest bit inferior to the reserves of all legalism realms. It was clear that aside from the Dharma saint, the Wu family wasn't simple either. Treasure? The Wu family's treasure. As Gu Chunsha was stealing world power and pouring it into the life's wish sphere, he was also searching for the Wu family's treasures. The Wu family definitely wanted to elevate the martial saint's paradise to a medium-class world. They would definitely search for all sorts of primordial treasures in all sorts of space-time turbulences, the depths of the demonic domain, the depths of the earth, and the depths of the ocean to nourish the world. If he could find the Wu family's treasures and obtain them all, the life's wish sphere would be one step closer to a medium-class world. The Calmness Immortal Department didn't have any God-level expert. If he wanted to elevate, he could only continuously accumulate power and slowly recuperate. Just like when Gu Chunsha ascended to the Tao realm, he had accumulated too much, and in the end, he killed himself. Gu Chunsha's sense of treasure hunting was one of the best in the world. In that instant, he saw an independent space deep within the layers of space-time within the martial saint's paradise. Within that space, treasure lights flickered. Almost all of them were primordial treasures. He looked over and realized that there were at least 4 divine artifacts on the same level as the 3 realms seal and Buzhou Palace. One was a tortoise shell with 9 palaces on it. It was actually a tortoise shell left behind by the ancient black tortoise. It had been refined into an artifact by some primordial almighty being. This artifact suppressed an area and constantly operated. If one hid within it, their defense would be top-notch. There was also a large flag with thousands of immortal figures drawn on it. They were all very lifelike. They were either moving clouds and rain, melting mountains, opening up rivers, or absorbing star power. This is a primordial treasure, the 10,000 Immortals world-opening flag. Gu Chunsha was very knowledgeable. It was refined by an extremely powerful saint from the ancient era. It actually ended up in the Wu family? Then, there were 2 other artifacts. One was a copper basin that flickered with treasure lights. Talismans flowed within the basin as if many things like fate, spiritual qi, and immortal qi in the world were continuously gathering into the basin. The other was a long spear that was filled with demonic qi. It was actually refined by a demon god. The natural treasure basin and the great immortal slaying spear recorded in the scripture of hell suppression. Not bad, not bad. They are all good treasures. Gu Chunsha rushed forward and mobilized the power of the life's wish sphere. With a slight sweep, the 4 magic treasures were all sucked into the sphere. Next, they were all sent into the sphere. Within the sphere, the wish tree shone brightly. The black tortoise baby jumped up and saw the ancestor's tortoise shell. The 4 treasures were all absorbed by the tree of wishes. Amidst the raging winds and scudding clouds, the black tortoise baby sensed an immense amount of ancestral power coming from the tree of wishes. With a loud roar, its entire body became like a small mountain, as though it had evolved significantly. Wonderful! The martial Saint Grotto Heaven is indeed an aristocratic clan that has operated for 7 or 8,000 years. Even a rotten ship has 3 pounds of nails, let alone a saint's aristocratic clan. Zhuge Ye stood up and couldn't contain his joy. That natural treasure basin is a natural spiritual treasure. Although it doesn't have any offensive or defensive power and is very weak among natural spiritual treasures, its effect isn't simple. It gathers many dimensional powers and ferments them within. Then, many artifacts and elixirs will be born from the basin. With this basin, it will be very easy for a sect to nurture disciples. They will no longer lack resources. This treasure's function is equivalent to a smaller heavenly demon tree. After the wish tree devours it, the tree's function will be even stronger. These primordial treasures weren't left behind. They were devoured one by one to increase the power of the sphere and the wish tree. One true artifact was enough. It wasn't good to be greedy. Right now, the calm immortal department wasn't so extravagant to have so many divine artifacts. Rumble. After absorbing these 4 treasures, the wish tree expanded again and covered the surroundings. Its roots and the sphere's crystal wall were completely permeated. And at the top of the wish tree, the wish god that looked exactly like Gu Chunxia slowly opened its eyes and looked at the world. Under its gaze, the world energy in the sphere started to circulate according to a certain pattern. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more and the entire sphere will turn into a minor kiliocosm. Zhuge Ye was very perceptive. Chapter 531. Very good. The Tree of Wishes has formed a deity of wishes. Although this deity is not a god yet, as long as it absorbs enough energy, it will be able to do so. However, the deity formed by this tree is still inferior to us God Realm experts. Fortunately, this deity of wishes is actually one with me. It will listen to my commands without any other thoughts. This is also the brilliance of the Tree of Wishes. If it was the heavenly demon tree, the 28 constellations Fey God celestial monarchs would have awakened its own intelligence. Gu Chunxia could naturally feel the changes in the sphere of the life's wishes. If one's cultivation was not high enough to forge a god weapon, one would be harmed by the origin spirit born from the god weapon. This was a taboo when forging a magic weapon. Especially when forging a demon weapon, if one's cultivation was not high enough to forge a demon weapon stronger than oneself, there was almost 100% chance of backlash. Immortal weapons and god weapons were slightly better, but there was still a 50% chance of backlash. This was the difference between a ruler and a vassal. If the ruler was weak, the vassal would be strong. Rumble. At this time, the battle in the martial saint's paradise was getting more and more intense. Xing Qiongshi used the Divine Prefecture Grand Technique and used the Divine Prefecture Ominous Armor as a medium to descend into the martial saint's paradise. On the other hand, the martial emperor used the Desolate Dragon Sex Talisman to spread out, trying his best to suppress Xing Qiongshi and snatch the martial saint's paradise. At this time, the 9 God Realm experts in the martial saint's paradise, King Wu Yu and the others, all started to tremble. They used the power of the entire paradise, trying to suppress Xing Qiongshi and the martial emperor. On the other hand, Wu Dangkong was forcing the 9 divine-level experts to give her control. Xing Qiongshi, your main body is far away in the depths of time and space, doing something crucial. You can't split yourself away. This bit of power is not enough to defeat you. If your main body came, I would naturally retreat. The martial emperor roared, but now you can't take away my martial saint's paradise. An even more intense shockwave descended upon this place. The more intense the fight, the more I like it. It'll be best if you guys keep fighting like this. That way, I'll have enough time to steal the power of the world and transform the sphere of the common people's wish into a minor kiliocosm. As long as the transformation is successful, the absorption ability will increase greatly. By the time you guys finish fighting, I'll have already absorbed the martial saint's paradise into an empty shell. Gu Chunxia wanted these people to fight, just like in the Dharma realm. He aimed at the treasury again. Earlier, after collecting the black tortoise shell, the 10,000 Immortals world-opening banner, the innate treasure basin, and the great killing immortal war spear, Shao Chen set his sights on items slightly weaker than these magic treasures. There were even talismans refined by martial sages, large numbers of medicinal pills, and natural treasures. In the treasury of the martial saint's paradise, there were 7 godly swords personally refined by martial sages. Slashing thunder, slashing flame, slashing river, slashing frost, slashing gold, slashing star, and slashing hell. There were many treasures of this grade. Although they were not as powerful as primordial treasures, they were extremely destructive. For example, a cultivator who had cultivated the 20th transformation, gathering and dispersing impermanence, could use this sword to kill an expert with an undying body. To a cultivator who had cultivated magic power, these 7 godly swords were even more useful than real god weapons. This was because a god weapon like the Wanxiang Shattering Rod required the power of the world to activate. Ordinary cultivators would be sucked dry if they got their hands on it. Just as Gu Churnsha was preparing to continue searching for treasures, an extremely divine and domineering martial path, as well as a seemingly boundless battle intent, suddenly descended into the cave. Or rather, in the depths of the paradise, there seemed to be an original spirit awakening. Martial Sage Summon. Gu Churnsha immediately knew that King Wu Yu and the others were going all out. They activated the reserves in the Martial Saint's paradise and summoned the Martial Sage to suppress them. "Oh, Martial Sage, you have finally appeared!" The Martial Emperor roared again. "Although I am your descendant, I have already surpassed you. Martial Sage. Back then, I had already reached the peak of the 36 transformations of the Tao realm. My cultivation was on par with yours. Now I have comprehended the deviant. In the future, I will definitely surpass the 36 transformations and jump out of the 3 realms." As he spoke, the Martial Emperor released his deviant aura. "Only I can control the Martial Saint's paradise and unify the world in the future. I will worship you and let you return to the human world. If the Dharma Saint can come back, so can you. Otherwise, with the current situation, the Wu clan will only perish. King Wu Yu and the others do not have the ability to revitalize the Wu clan. When the Wu clan perishes, you will lose your worship and you will sink into oblivion forever. You will never be able to break free from the heavenly Tao and return to the human world. You won't even be able to manifest your spirit. As time passes, you will completely disappear and no one in the world will remember the appearance of the Martial Sage." This was the fall of the ancient times. The clans of the sages would worship the sages and exchange the power of worship with the heavenly Tao in exchange for the chance of the sages manifesting their spirit. If the clans perished, the sages would lose the exchange of power and would sink into oblivion forever. It was that cruel. Therefore, the Martial Emperor had absolute confidence that the Martial Sage would support him. Because the Martial Sage knew that only the Martial Emperor could revitalize the Wu clan. King Wu Yu would not be able to do it. As soon as the Martial Saint appeared, all the world energy in the Martial Saint's paradise settled down. This made Gu Churnsha unable to steal anything. He immediately hid himself and transformed himself, becoming a part of the paradise, making it impossible for anyone to detect his presence. All of you, split the Wu clan equally. The Martial Sage's vast body almost filled the entire Martial Saint's paradise. He sent out a thought: the Martial Saint's paradise is a small kiliacosm. King Wu Yu and the 9 gods will take 1/3 of the control. The Martial Emperor will take 1/3 and Wu Dankong will take 1/3. Work together sincerely. Otherwise, there will be a great disaster. Yes. Wu Dankong immediately responded, "Lord Martial Sage, King Wu Yu and the others have killed many demons in the demon domain. Let me perform the ritual. With the sacred gathering ritual, Lord Martial Sage will definitely be able to unleash all of his power and defeat the Xingqiong clan." "Good. Quickly perform the ritual," the Martial Sage ordered. At this time, King Wu Yu and the others understood the Martial Sage's will. They had no choice but to disobey the Martial Sage's order. He immediately threw a gourd into Wu Dankong's hands. At this time, the Martial Sage moved his finger and grabbed out 3 rays of light, which represented the control of the Martial Saint's paradise. It was divided into 3 parts. King Wu Yu and the 9 gods took 30%, Martial Emperor took 30%, and Wu Dankong also took 30%. The remaining 10% seemed to be left behind, and no one could occupy it. The remaining 10% of control will be rotated. Whoever contributes the most to the Wu clan will be able to obtain the 10% of control for 60 years. After 60 years, they will automatically hand it over. The martial sage set the rules. All of these changes happened in just a few breaths' time. The divine will rippled, and it was completed in an instant. With a few words, the martial sage unified the Wu clan's forces. He then sent a powerful will to the Xingqiong clan. Xingqiong clan, you came to plot against our Wu clan. All of this is futile. Leave the divine prefecture ominous armor behind. Boom! The martial saint unleashed his powerful will, causing the entire martial saint's abode to rumble. A boundless world energy pressed down on the divine prefecture ominous armor. With a kacha, the divine prefecture ominous armor was pressed down. In a battle of this level, Gu Chunxia could not interfere at all. Even if he used the power of the life's wish sphere, he could only protect himself in the dark. It was impossible for him to fight in it. He was like a leaf in a storm. Fortunately, some corners of the martial saint's paradise were relatively safe. It was like a safe haven for a typhoon. He hid there, waiting for an opportunity to steal the world's power again. The divine prefecture ominous armor was extremely important to the Xingqiong clan. He only had 2 sets of this armor. How could he lose it so easily? He had planned to use this armor to plot against Wu Dankong. Now that the martial sage had taken it away, he was not willing to accept it. This was also the world that Gu Chunxia had predicted. Therefore, Gu Chunxia still had a high chance of obtaining a big vote. As expected, when the divine prefecture ominous armor was suppressed to the limit, the Xingqiong clans will strengthened once again. Martial sage, even the 7 sages of the human race combined weren't my match. Now that I have been reborn, I have comprehended even more. Even at your peak, you will be reduced to ashes in the blink of an eye. I will show you what unimaginable power is. Divine Prefecture Great Art 100 levels. A power that didn't belong to this world descended upon the martial saint's paradise. In the blink of an eye, Gu Chunxia felt like the entire divine continent was being transported into the martial saint's paradise. The boundless power of the divine continent poured down, and the martial saint's paradise was immediately on the verge of collapse. No matter how sturdy this lesser kiliacosm was, it couldn't withstand it. Even a medium kiliacosm would find it difficult to withstand it. Xingqiong clan is too powerful. Gu Chenchia's heart was pounding. He was proficient in the 72 divine prefecture great arts, and knew that the highest level of the divine prefecture great arts was the 99 levels, which represented the 99 prefectures of the central divine prefecture. That was the limit, but Xingqiong clan had broken that limit. He had mobilized 100 levels and combined them into one. This kind of power surpassed the 3 celestial sovereigns, and didn't belong to this world. As soon as the 100 levels of the divine prefecture great arts were unleashed, it wasn't just the martial saint's paradise that was collapsing. The entire divine prefecture seemed to be shaking, as if it was going to experience another earthquake, collapse, and shift mountains and rivers. But at that moment, a majestic power emanated from the imperial palace in the old capital of the divine prefecture. In an instant, it suppressed the mountains and rivers, stabilizing the divine prefecture. Chapter 532. The Celestial Talisman Emperor had already completed some sort of setup for the divine continent. Xingqiong's divine continent grand arts 100th stage was no small matter. He wanted to merge himself with the divine continent. The moment he activated this art, he could absorb the power of the divine continent, shattering the heavens and tearing apart the ages. However, this would inevitably cause the entire divine continent to tremble and cause tsunami-like changes. The people of the divine continent would naturally suffer. The power left behind by the Celestial Talisman Emperor naturally wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. With just a slight tremor, he could cut off the connection between Xingqiong and the Divine Continent. There was no way he could cause chaos in the Divine Continent and destroy the human world. This is my chance. At this moment, Gu Chensha knew that his chance had come. When Xingqiong used the 100th stage of the Divine Continent Grand Art, the martial saint's paradise was on the verge of collapsing. The world's power became chaotic again. Gu Chensha's chance to absorb it immediately came. His body turned into a huge black hole. In this chaos, he wantonly stole. The martial saint's paradise's 7,000 to 8,000 years of accumulation was lost. That treasure vault broke away from the paradise's crystal wall. Gu Chensha saw that the treasure vault containing many treasures and pills had broken away from the paradise's crystal wall after Xingqiong's attack. It seemed like it was about to escape into the space-time turbulence. How could he let such a thing happen? He stealthily turned and hooked the treasure vault over, sending it into the depths of the sphere. The enormous treasury itself was also a small heavenly passage, equivalent to a microscopic world of dust. There were large amounts of medicinal pills, magical treasures, and all sorts of things stored within. In fact, one could even see the remains of fallen deities in the ancient dust sands. However, he couldn't be bothered to deal with it now. He sent it directly into the sphere for the wish tree to absorb, and the information would be sent back. While Zhuge Ye was training, he saw that the tiny world of dust in the huge treasure vault was sent into the sphere. The Tree of Wishes had already been wrapped up and kept squirming as it absorbed the tiny world, as well as the pills and treasures within. At this moment, the absorption ability of the Tree of Wishes increased tremendously. With just a slight movement, the tiny world was sucked dry. The rare magic treasures, pills, and materials were all absorbed. Even a few martial sage talismans were sucked dry. Basically, the tranquil immortal department did not need any other Dharma treasures or pills. After the Tree of Wishes absorbed them, it could refine them into higher and purer pills, unless it was something like the heaven-defying mutated pill. As for the subordinates of the calm immortal department, they only needed the mortal dragon pill, the mortal dragon armor, and the mortal dragon sword. They didn't need anything else, as it would only be a waste of energy. In this treasure vault, there are actually some skeletons left behind by the Wu clan's god rank experts. Zhuge Ye also saw some huge skeletons in the treasure vault. These skeletons were emitting god might. After the Tree of Desire absorbed the entire treasury, the tree flickered and gave back a huge amount of energy, causing the entire sphere to squirm even more perfectly. On the other hand, the God of Wishes on the Tree of Wishes displayed even more thinking abilities. Massive calculations, emotionless analysis, and absolute rationality drove the entire sphere to change. The common people's wish sphere has evolved into a minor thousand world. The God of Wishes is now in charge. You can say that this God is not a living being. It's just a treasure with powerful calculation and analysis abilities. It doesn't have its own thoughts and will. This was exactly what Zhuge Ye wanted. Originally, the ancient heavenly sons and the Lord of Seven Stars believed that the governance of the entire world had to be like the heavenly Tao. The ruler had no selfishness, no emotions, and would act purely according to the rules. Therefore, the wisdom of many ancient heavenly sons gathered together and imitated the heavenly demon tree. They imagined the Tree of Wishes, which gave birth to the God of Wishes. This God had no selfishness and would never rest while dealing with the world's affairs. In the end, the God of Wishes was used to govern the world. However, this wish did not come true. In fact, the heavenly talisman emperor also believed that officials had to be selfless. The martial saint's paradise's treasury was filled with all sorts of treasures, medicinal ingredients, and god corpses. These materials had all been carefully selected and prepared for the martial saint's paradise's evolution. Now, it all fell into the hands of the Celestial Tranquility Department. Zhuge could almost guess that after the martial saint's paradise was stabilized, the Wu clan would most likely want to cry, but no tears would come. The Wu clan would truly be penniless, and no one would even know who had stolen it. Of course, the Wu clan had been plotting to overthrow the imperial court for a long time. It was only natural to teach them a lesson. An enormous amount of world energy poured into the sphere. The common people's wish sphere began to evolve. All of a sudden, like an egg exploding, the space within the sphere expanded without limit. Layers of cracks appeared, and all sorts of crystal walls became like porridge, turning into viscous liquid. The sphere revolved within the chaotic flow of spacetime. Any spacetime storms that came into contact with the sphere were forcibly absorbed, turning into spatial goo. This was the power of a minor thousand world. Furthermore, because the common people's wish sphere had long since accumulated an enormous amount of power, it was practically a combination of many minor thousand worlds. Now that it had accumulated so much, it finally transformed. The minor thousand world is finally formed. Zhuge only saw the instant the entire sphere transformed into a minor thousand world. Countless heavenly flowers fell down. The benefits of the birth of the world were also bestowed upon him. As the creator of the world, he naturally received the greatest benefit. This was equivalent to a certain subject who had finally supported the emperor to ascend to the throne. Naturally, he would receive rewards. The heavyweights of the calming immortal department all sensed the changes in the sphere. Lu Baiwei, Gu Huasha, and even Jin Suebua, Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise had all received great benefit. This was something that even the divine capital would find hard to accomplish. Yet, the various figures of the calming immortal department had accomplished it just like that. Power, I can feel power. Within Gu Chencha's body, because the minor thousand world had been upgraded, many wills and images were transmitted over. The obstruction of the secrets of spacetime had been completely broken. Kacha, his magic power had finally reached the stage of past reflection, breaking through to the realm of 23 transformations. The creation of a minor thousand world required the establishment of several factions in the divine capital, working tirelessly for thousands of years. Only then would there be a chance of success. But it was only a chance. From this, it could be seen how much energy was needed to upgrade this world. Once it succeeded, the benefits would be immense. The divine capital would be able to ascend as a result. As the creator of the common people's wish sphere, Gu Chensha had risen to become a minor kiliacosm. With his powerful strength, he had seen through the mysteries of space and time, comprehending it thoroughly. He had reached the 23rd transformation, finally breaking through the most important bottleneck that he had been unable to break through for a long time. Countless pieces of information surged into his mind. The transformations of Gu Chencha's magic power were even more exquisite. It was almost as if he had fused with the heavenly Tao of space-time, truly unfathomable. At this moment, it would be extremely difficult for others to harm him. Now that he had advanced to this realm, his combat prowess had increased by several times. His magic power was especially vigorous, allowing him to activate the all-forms shattering stick to break through the spatial seal. Some spatial spells wouldn't be able to trap him. Moreover, his magic power had seeped into the stick, and he could feel that some of the structure in the depths of the stick was damaged. He could then use the heavenly Tao to slowly repair it. Good heavens, my calming immortal department's common people's wish sphere has advanced to a minor thousand world. Its ability to absorb and release isn't something that the essence of the minor thousand world can compare to. Suck the martial saint's paradise dry. Gu Chensha knew that it wasn't that the minor thousand world didn't need the power of the world. Rather, it craved it even more. 1,000 minor thousand worlds were equivalent to a minor thousand world, and 1,000 minor thousand worlds were equivalent to a minor thousand world. If Gu Qinsha wanted to turn the common people's wish sphere into a minor thousand world and advance again, the amount of power he would need wouldn't be as easy as before. At the very least, he would need to cultivate to the divine rank to be able to do this. At this moment, he once again opened the power of the common people's wish sphere and absorbed the power of the world. Sure enough, the power he absorbed was 1,000 times greater than before. Rumble. The enormous power of the world was sucked into the common people's wish sphere as if it had teleported. Such a large amount of power finally attracted the martial saint's attention. Who is it? Someone is stealing the power of the martial saint's paradise. The martial saint's enormous will swept over. He could finally free his will to suppress the collapsing minor thousand world. Gu Qinsha suddenly disappeared, evading the martial saint's will. Right at this moment, the Xing Qiong clan's divine land innumerable ominous armor suddenly shuddered and counterattacked again. Sacrifice. At this time, Wu Dangkong performed the sacrifice. A vast amount of power pierced through the air, and the entire martial saint's paradise shone brightly. The martial saint's body expanded by 1,000 times. Gu Qinsha also felt that half of the tremendous power that broke through the air was shared with him. He himself couldn't bear it anymore. With a thought, he entered the sphere and became one with the Tree of Hope. The enormous power poured into the Tree of Hope, and the sphere expanded again. Very good, very good. Gu Qinsha was very satisfied. My plan is complete. This time, I took all the treasures in the martial saint's paradise, stole at least 1/3 of the world's power, and let the 9 Wu clan's godlike old geezers kill demons in the demon realm for a month. Wu Dangkong came to sacrifice, and half of the power was transferred to me and transferred to the Tree of Hope. Such a huge harvest was a huge profit. Next, it was time to see how the battle between the martial sage and Xing Qiongshi would go. Initially, Xing Qiongshi could use the 100 divine grand arts to break through the martial sage's estate world. However, when he tried to do so, the heavenly talisman Immortal Emperor's trap prevented him from doing so. His sharpness was greatly reduced, and he also had the intention to retreat. This way, the martial saint would be able to rebuild the old mountains and rivers. But even if it was done, the Wu clan's martial saint paradise would be extremely weak. All the accumulated treasures had vanished, and 1/3 of the world's power had been lost. Furthermore, Wu Dangkong and the martial emperor were all scheming against each other. The martial saint himself soon couldn't resist the call of the heavenly Tao and was about to disappear. Chapter 533. Gu Qinsha was no longer able to interfere in the battle of the Battle Saint's abode, but he had already obtained enough benefits. Most importantly, he had broken through the 23rd transformation, past reflection, breaking through the major bottleneck that he had been unable to break through for a long time. Moreover, he had also transformed the sphere of life's will into a small thousand world. The change in this world was huge for the Jingxian department. The most obvious benefit was that its defensive and offensive power had greatly increased, allowing it to stand tall without falling. In fact, with the nature of the common people's wish sphere, it had already surpassed most minor dimensions. It now had the possibility of advancing into a dimensional realm. However, it was definitely not easy to advance into a medium-sized world. Tai Fantasy Sect and Universe Profound Sect were not medium-sized worlds, but the peak of small kiliocosms. They had not advanced into medium-sized worlds yet, so they could not compare to Heaven-Earth Profound Sect. However, they had obtained the dragon-raising mental sutra that Gu Qinsha had taught them. As long as they operated it peacefully and turned a large number of their disciples into geniuses, they would be able to advance steadily in hundreds of years. Martial Saint's Cave's dream of advancing into a medium-sized world had been completely destroyed. Secondly, the greatest benefit of the sphere's advancement into a medium-sized world was that its manufacturing ability had greatly improved. The human dragon sword, human dragon armor, and human dragon pill that it manufactured would be much better in both quality and quantity than before. Gu Chensha was very safe in his own sphere. He still looked towards Martial Saint's cave. At this moment, light shot out from within Martial Saint's cave. All of a sudden, a baleful chi surged and then fell silent. Martial Saint's cave then started to wriggle and shrink before slowly hiding in the depths of the void. It seems that Xing Qiongshi didn't let the divine prefecture ominous armor escape? Instead, they made some sort of deal? What happened to the Wu clan? Seeing this, Gu Chensha was puzzled. Should I transform into Wu Dangxing again and go to the Wu clan to find out what happened? No, this is extremely dangerous. Martial Saint's cave had stabilized. King Wu Yu, the 9 god-level experts, Martial Emperor, and Wu Dangkong were all living there. After checking, would they discover that the entire treasury of the Wu clan had disappeared? What would happen then? They would definitely suspect Wu Dangxing. Oh, I have just mastered the 23 changes, past reflection. Then let's deduce what exactly happened in the Martial Saint's abode. Gu Chensha hurriedly activated it. His entire person turned into a bright mirror, and all sorts of things appeared in the mirror. Originally, it was impossible for a cultivator at the 23 changes to peer into the Martial Saint's abode. Even a cultivator at the 24 changes to peer into the future would not be able to do so. Brilliant cultivators were able to hide their heavenly secrets and not be spied on. However, Gu Chensha cultivated the heavenly Dao technique, so he seemed to be able to deduce everything. At that instant, he understood everything that had happened in the Martial Saint's chamber. So that's how it is, so that's how it is. The Martial Saint and the Xing Qiong clan came to an agreement in the end. Gu Chensha suddenly turned back into himself. Xing Qiongshi still supports Wu Dangkong because he needs the heaven sacrificial talisman to do many things for him. Moreover, the main reason why Xing Qiongshi compromised was because of the power left behind by Imperial Father. It suppressed the entire divine continent, making it impossible for him to cultivate the 100 layers of divine continent law and merge with the divine continent. According to Gu Chensha's calculations, the Martial Saint's abode had now completely stabilized, and the situation had changed. Martial Emperor occupied 1/3 of the control, while Wu Dangkong, King Wu Yu, and the 9 god-level experts each occupied 1/3. However, the Martial Saint's abode's power had also shrunk by 1/3. Moreover, all the pills, primordial treasures, and godly weapons in the treasury had been stolen by Gu Chensha. The losses were so great that it was no less than a large clan being plundered. If Gu Chensha was given more time, the Martial Saint's abode would have been sucked dry and degenerated into a tiny world. This time, the Martial Saint's abode had lost at least 3,000 to 4,000 years of hard work. This time, Wu Dangkong planned to destroy our tranquil immortal agency, and he even wanted Fa Wuxian to collude with the demon race and mobilize a demon god-level expert. This is suicide. We'll kill everyone that comes. Even if a saint comes, he'll be skinned alive. How can a small kiliacosm be child's play? Gu Chensha's heart calmed down. Once a small kiliacosm was formed, it would be extremely difficult for a saint to invade it. Especially when the small kiliacosm of the common people's wish sphere had accumulated so much power that it had a chance of becoming a medium-sized world. It's a pity that I didn't manage to capture that void worm this time. In the blink of an eye, he thought again. That void worm's power is almost at the peak of the god level, close to that of a saint. It's not like a magic treasure without an origin spirit. How can I capture it? Congratulations, Your Highness, you've finally broken through the bottleneck. Zhuge laughed heartily. This time he was truly happy. The common people's wish sphere was a small kiliacosm with a stable foundation. If he encountered danger, even if he couldn't win, the sphere's speed in the void was something that even a saint couldn't hope to match. I'm now 80% sure that I can obtain the world-burying coffin. Everyone has improved a lot this time, right? Gu Chensha asked. Of course. The sphere flashed and a figure appeared. It was actually Lu Baiyue. Gu Chensha looked over and discovered that Lu Baiyue's aura was sacred and unrestrained. She had actually become an innate saint as well. Baiyue, you've finally awakened the bloodline left behind by Father Emperor? You've broken through the bottleneck and reached the aptitude of an innate saint? Not bad. This is all because of the experience you left in the wish tree. The information from the heaven-defying mutated pill allowed me to comprehend some things. Along with the evolution of the common people's wish sphere into a small kiliacosm, as one of the creators, I have obtained huge amounts of power. Lu Baiyue's aura was totally different from before. Although a natural saint and a top genius were just one level apart, in terms of Tao technique usage, cultivation knowledge, and comprehension, they were far from comparable. At this moment, Lu Baiyue could deal with 10 of him. Common People's Commander, Honglong. Gu Chensha summoned and the 360 Common People's Generals were guided into the sphere. Wish Tree. He activated his own intent and many bright lights shot out from the wish tree, wrapping around the 360 Common People's Generals. Many liquid-like powers surged down and carved many runes. Honglong. The 360 Common People's Generals exploded, turning into balls of runes and absorbing new ones. After a full 3 days and 3 nights, the Common People's Generals formed their bodies once more. They had already transformed into the 23 transformations of the Tao realm and could see the past. Gu Chensha had advanced and they could advance at any time. Of course, this was the benefit of a small kiliacosm. If it was a small world, even if Gu Chensha advanced, he would need several years of hard work to allow the Common People's Generals to advance. How would it be like now where he could do it in just 3 days? Amazing. Lu Baiyue was delighted. This is pretty much stealing good fortune. The Heaven Path technique is just so terrifying. 360 Common People's Generals of 23 transformations will increase the efficiency of running the academy by more than 10 times? Of course. Not to mention anything else, each Common People's commander can see the past. He can sense the conflicts between students and the various problems of the student. He can then correct and change them. Gu Chensha said, in this way the entire academy will be transparent, fair, and strict. Everyone will be united, and we will be able to assist the world's governors in investigating cases and handling affairs. The Chamber of Commerce's assessment and the governance of the world will be improved to a higher level. Actually, the biggest benefit this time is that the Xingqiong clan activated the Divine Prefecture's 100 levels and activated the Divine Prefecture's great power, but it was suppressed by the unseen. In this way, all the major powers will have to be more careful and won't dare to act rashly. I'm afraid the devil race won't dare to launch a devil calamity either, which will buy us some time. What we lack now is time. If we have enough time, our growth will be much faster than any family or sect. Gu Chensha thought about the small god continent. He split a portion of his strength and pointed out. Voila voila, large amounts of heaven dew landed. At this moment, the rain heaven dew that he activated had 80% of the effect of the true heaven dew. Such a change was shocking. If the small god continent was nurtured by him and operated for decades, what would it be like? We have the fate of the world in our hand. At this moment, we can be considered to have achieved success. Basically, as long as there are no major changes and we can maintain the current situation, the world will eventually become one. No one can play any trick. Suddenly, the fourth appeared in the sphere. His body rippled with a divine aura. Fourth brother, you also activated father's bloodline and became a natural-born saint? Gu Chensha was wild with joy. That's right. The moment the common people's wish sphere turned into a small kiliacosm, I received the blessing of the world's power. As the creator of the world, I have a deep understanding of time and space. In an instant, I sensed Father's bloodline, and it filled my entire body. As it flowed, any restrictions on talent were broken. The fourth Gu Huasha laughed loudly. Father is an existence that dominates the world. How can the bloodline he left behind be mediocre? Compared to many great forces, our Gu family's royal family was too mediocre in the past. Now let's show the world the power of the tranquil fairy department. That's right. The princess and the prince have both become natural-born saints. If news of this gets out, I'm afraid even those officials who are wavering will completely submit. One sect with 4 saints, not to mention the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise are also holy beasts. They are equivalent to saints. Zhuge said, which sect has a scale like ours? How amazing! Heavenly law technique. A small kiliacosm. The 4 holy beasts also communicated with each other in the tree of desire. Looks like we followed the right person. In the future, our achievements will probably be greater than our ancestors. Chapter 534. Calming Xian Division had 8 saints, their small kiliacosms forming physical forms. All of their cultivations had greatly increased. The commander of common people had also risen by a crucial level. It could be said that their overall strength had risen by several levels. Everyone was delighted. However, the depths of the martial Saint Grotto heaven were filled with gloom as everyone attacked. Who is it? King Wu Yu was enraged. Who was it that stole all the treasures of my Wu clan? Why did all the rare Taiji treasures, elixirs, and even the bones of our Wu clan's godly experts disappear? Where is Wudong Xing? Where did that kid run off to? Was he killed in the battle? Emperor Wu suddenly asked. That's not right. Why can't I divine his movements? He doesn't look like he's dead, and he has my world energy on him, which can protect him. If I'm not wrong, this kid should have stolen our Wu clan's treasury during the chaos. Wu Dankong said coldly. You might not know, but he has an extremely strong existence behind him. Even the great spirit god is wary of him. Good kid, we've all misjudged him. At this time, King Wu Yu was enraged. To think that we gave him the 7 divine swords. This brat is extremely ambitious. Order all the experts of the Wu clan to kill this brat. We must take back the treasures. This time, our Wu clan has suffered a huge loss. I don't think that's necessary. I still want to work with Wudong Xing. Since he has a strong existence behind him, he has great value. The 9 of you don't need to be angry. Wu Dankong waved her hand. Now she had some authority, and it was huge. The martial saints said that I am the leader. The 9 of you have to listen to me now. The martial saint and the Xingqiong clan have reached an agreement to leave behind the divine prefecture ominous armor to assist me. This time, the martial Saint Grotto heaven suffered a huge loss, but as long as we work hard, it will recover quickly. It's not worth offending Wudong Xing now. Emperor Wu, don't you agree? I have no objections. The martial emperor's eyes darted around as he pondered. Even though I've become an anomaly, it'll be extremely difficult for me to return to my previous state. The Xingqiong clan is still supporting Wu Dankong, and they've even sent the divine prefecture ominous armor to assist him. There's no way I can go against them. Thankfully, I've obtained 1/3 of the control rights of the martial saint's paradise this time. With that as the foundation, it's not impossible for me to establish a great cause. Humph! King Wu Yu and the other 9 patriarchs were very dissatisfied, but there was nothing they could do. Wu Dankong, not only did the Xingqiong clan support her, but the martial saint's spirit also supported her. The 2 supreme existences had come to an agreement, and they did not dare to resist. Right now, we have to unite with sincerity. The martial saint's abode is under our control, we are bound together for good or bad. Wu Dangkong said, Lord Martial Emperor, although you've become an anomaly and have unparalleled remarkable abilities, surpassing ordinary divine-level experts, without your own influence, it'll all be for naught. You won't be able to gather everyone to form karmic luck, strengthen your paradise, and elevate it to a world. I have a good suggestion, but I wonder if you'll implement it? The martial emperor's tone was ice-cold. He was thinking of how he could seize back control of the others, then refine everyone, and the paradise would naturally recover. He would not trust anyone, and he liked to kill all factors that he could not control. In his eyes, there were no friends, no competitors. There was only submission or death. He was high and mighty, the supreme ruler who had control over everything. Right now, there's a power called the Human Dragon Association. It's in the Sin province, and they've converted a large number of demons to serve as protectors. With the support of the Celestial Pacification Bureau, they're slowly developing, and their power is actually expanding rapidly. However, they're still far from being able to accomplish anything. As long as Lord Martial Emperor heads there, you'll definitely be able to capture them easily. How about it? Wu Dangkong said, I won't fight with Lord Martial Emperor over this fat piece of meat. How is this a fat piece of meat? It's a bone that's hard to chew. The Martial Emperor looked toward the void. The manifestation of the Celestial Pacification Bureau's orb of common people's wishes has already completely disappeared. There's no way to see it, and we don't know what kind of power it contains. That Human Dragon Association is obviously supported by them, and they have the backing of the Buddhist sect. Who knows if there's an ancient Buddhist giant backing them? If I act rashly, I'm afraid I'll be attacked by both the Celestial Pacification Bureau and the Buddhist sect giant. At that time, you can refine me and seize control of me. This is a good idea. Lord Martial Emperor is so suspicious that it's practically rare in history. It's no wonder that when the Martial Emperor dynasty collapsed back then, everyone deserted him, and he didn't have a single loyal subordinate. In fact, he was even kicked by everyone when he was down. Wu Dangkong laughed. Fight, fight. When the two of you fight until both of you are injured, we can clean up the paradise again. King Wu Yu and the others were extremely depressed. They looked forward to the Martial Emperor and Wu Dangkong fighting. All of a sudden, Wu Dangkong's expression changed drastically, as if he had received some kind of information. What's happening outside? The Martial Emperor asked. Lu Baiwei and Gu Huasha of the Celestial Pacification Bureau have obtained innate sage qualifications. They hired many newspaper organizations to spread the news around the world and held a large-scale conference. The news has already spread everywhere. The Celestial Pacification Bureau's reputation has risen because of this. Many officials of the Imperial Court who were originally wavering have now completely submitted to the Celestial Pacification Bureau. Even some disciples of aristocratic families are secretly communicating with the Celestial Pacification Bureau. Moreover, there's one more thing. The General of the People has also advanced. All 360 of them have advanced to the 23 transformations past reflection realm. They are also displaying it. Wu Dangkong said word by word as he gritted his teeth. Damn it. The Martial Emperor was enraged. At this moment, outside the Great Wall, in the plaza in front of the Celestial Pacification Bureau in the new capital city, countless newspaper organizations had gathered to watch the press conference of the Celestial Pacification Bureau. The world was changing with each passing day. Every major business organization had begun to publish their own newspapers. The newspapers contained news from all over the world, including the major events of the Imperial Court, the prices of resources, new rumors, and major cases. There were even articles and novels written by some scholars. Even the lowliest commoners in the world would pick up a stack of newspapers to read during their leisure time. The news spread extremely quickly, and all the major events of the world were within their grasp. The Celestial Pacification Bureau's newspaper had the largest circulation. Even the most remote mountain villages had their newspaper. Moreover, every issue of the Celestial Pacification Bureau's newspaper contained all sorts of cultivation techniques and even explanations of various Tao techniques. All the aristocratic families, officials, local tycoons, martial sects, gangs, and societies were the first to collect and purchase the newspapers. They were all snatched up, making paper the most expensive in the world. Every piece of news from the Celestial Pacification Bureau shocked the world. Everyone, this is the news that our Celestial Pacification Bureau has announced today. The two department heads have become innate sages, and the general of the people has advanced as a whole. In the future, our Celestial Pacification Bureau will increase the supply of the Human Dragon 3-piece set. The person who announced the news was Long Yun. As soon as the news was announced, it spread like wildfire. In the short span of a month, it had spread throughout the entire divine continent, even to the eastern wasteland's profound immortal Tao sections. Innate sage aptitude was no trifling matter. In recent years, only the school of legalism had produced Fa Wuxian. Not even one of the 72 profound immortal sects had appeared. For example, a long time ago, the Black Heaven-Earth Gate had produced Xian Xian, but he had been killed by the Heavenly Talisman Emperor. Now, the Celestial Pacification Bureau had produced 8 sages. Ignoring the Azure Dragon, the White Tiger, the Vermilion Bird, and the Black Tortoise, Zhuge Ye was the Lord of 7 Stars, a king among sages. Gu Chensha had long since obtained the aptitude to become an innate sage. Once Lu Baiwei and Gu Huasha became sages, the world was truly shaken. All the powers could see that the court's direction had truly changed. The Crown Prince's glory and prestige had been stolen by the Celestial Pacification Bureau. Even the Celestial Designer Institute's glory had dimmed. Moreover, in the past month, the supply of human dragon pills, human dragon swords, and human dragon armor had greatly increased. Countless pill-sword armors flowed into the market, increasing the nation's strength. With the support of the Celestial Pacification Bureau, the governors strengthened their control over the provinces. The Celestial Pacification Bureau's trading company had thoroughly squeezed out the National Fate Party and the Clearsky Chamber of Commerce. Even some of the National Fate Party's talents from the Clearsky Chamber of Commerce had joined the Celestial Pacification Bureau. When the second- and third-rate aristocratic families saw this, they all supported the Celestial Pacification Bureau. Some of them even sent their disciples to join the Celestial Pacification Bureau. At the same time, the Celestial Pacification Bureau's various policies were carried out with vigor and vigor. This was especially true for the population policy. In order to maintain the birth rate, the Celestial Pacification Bureau had set up medical centers in various places. With the protection of spirit medicines, the newborns basically wouldn't die prematurely. Moreover, this time, the Celestial Pacification Bureau had also announced that all pregnant women would be able to obtain the newly developed Heavenly Dew pill. As long as they took this pill, even if they were terminally ill, they would be completely cured. The child would also be born healthy and wouldn't suffer any difficulties during childbirth. Moreover, the mother of the child would be even healthier and have boundless energy. The Heavenly Dew pill was naturally produced from the Heavenly Dew rain that Gu Chensha had transformed into. Now that he had transformed the Heavenly Dew into a rainstorm, it already had 80% of the true Heavenly Dew's effects. When it was refined into a pill, it could naturally cure all diseases and strengthen the body. With a little research and development, it would be greatly beneficial to pregnant women and babies. For this, Gu Chensha had put his life on the line. He wanted to do everything possible to increase the Yonko's population, increase the nation's luck, and make the human race flourish. Even if they encountered a devil calamity in the future, they would be able to preserve a large amount of vitality. He persisted in the strategy of man conquers nature. At this moment, his vision was completely different. He was standing in the perspective of the entire human race. He knew that the Dharma Saint was activating the Spirit Demon Project. However, he also had a plan in mind, and that was the No Demon Project. What yin and yang balance, what light and darkness alternating, what good and evil opposing, what spirit-demon cycle, what extreme prosperity must lead to decline. All of these should die. In this world, there shouldn't be any devils. There shouldn't be any evil. There should only be justice and order. Therefore, he wanted to eliminate all devils. He wanted those who upheld justice and order to live in every world. Chapter 535. Inside the sphere of the common people's wish. Over the past month, the huge amount of Vao's wish power had increased by at least 30%. Even the naked eye could see golden streams of energy rolling down from the top of the Tree of Hope. These golden streams of energy were formed from the Vao's wish power, something similar to the Son of Heaven's aura. However, they were also different. The world is truly united. This time, the world is truly united. Zhuge Lu Baihui, Gu Chunsha, and Gu Huasha stared at this place. They saw the Vao's wish power flowing into the crystal wall of the minor kiliacosm, transforming into pure world energy and increasing the accumulation of the minor kiliacosm. They couldn't help but nod. The Calming Immortal Department first announced the creation of 8 sages, then increased the supply of human dragon pills, human dragon swords, and human dragon armors. After that, they distributed a large amount of heavenly dew pills to pregnant women and newborn babies. This trend immediately became unstoppable. Now, even the most remote and desolate villages sighed at the wisdom of the Calming Immortal Department. For the benefit of the common people, there were even some families that began to hang portraits of the 4 sages of Calming Immortal Department, offering incense to them day and night. However, the Calming Immortal Department's thoughts brought about the Vao's wish power, not incense and faith power. Although this was also produced by the common people, it was not the same thing. Incense and faith power was something that the common people prayed to a certain god, hoping that the god would bestow them happiness, fortuitous encounters, and other things. This was absolute dependence. Relying on a god for everything was the same as hoping that everything would fall from the heavens. As for the Vao's wish power, it was an oath to a supreme existence, creating one's own path, hoping that the supreme existence would bear witness to it. The Vao's wish power was a manifestation of the heavens, a manifestation of a gentleman ceaselessly striving to improve himself. As for the Son of Heaven's aura, it was something that the common people acted according to certain rules and laws. They revered the Son of Heaven in their hearts, and under this rule, they gathered a kind of power that could change fate. Gu Chunsha, Lu Baihui, Zhuge Ye, and Gu Huasha all had a kind of comprehension. The hearts of the common people are like chaos. Their spirit power can be refined into the power of faith. It can be refined into demonic intent and negative emotions. It can also be refined into the power of curses and wishes. It can also be refined into the Son of Heaven's aura, and so on. Refining the minds of all living beings is equivalent to refining all kinds of substances from the primordial chaos. Gu Chunsha said, "Some of the gods who have attained godhood need to extract the power of faith from the hearts and minds of all living beings. As for the tycoons of the Devil Tao, they want to extract the fear, despair, and malice from the hearts and minds of all living beings. The Son of Heaven and Emperor want to extract the rules, prestige, order, reverence, and respect from the hearts and minds of all living beings, and gather them into the aura of the Son of Heaven. As for the division of calmness, what we extract is hope and vows. These things are definitely different. Only now do I understand this logic." "That's right. Your Highness's words are spot on." Zhuge Ye said, the hearts and minds of all living beings in the world can be said to be another form of chaos. It is different from the real chaos elemental energy. However, this energy is the key to transcendence and is difficult to study. That was why the final move of the Son of Heaven's God-sealing art was called the one heart of all beings. Since ancient times, not to mention practicing this move, there hasn't even been an emperor who understood this move. Within the primordial chaos, all living beings are born, and the hearts of all living beings are like primordial chaos. It is simply a perfect cycle. Only by extracting things from the hearts and minds of all living beings can one obtain immortality and transcendence. People say that cultivation is to leave the mortal world and obtain peace and quiet, but that isn't cultivation at all. It is escape. Only by understanding how to extract the essence from the hearts and minds of all living beings can one obtain true cultivation. Lu Baiwei once again comprehended a few things. That's right. Our division of calmness leads the way of thought and refines the power of vows and wishes. When the world is united, whether it is the speed of condensing a minor kiliacosm or self-cultivation, it is 100 times faster than cultivating in seclusion. The benefits of managing the world are enormous. It is no wonder that the noble families of sages want to recruit disciples and offer sacrifices to their families. They must not cut off the line of worship. Once the line of worship is cut off, no one will care about the dead sages. In the future, let alone being resurrected, it will be difficult for even their spirits to manifest. In the end, they will sink into oblivion and there will be no hope left. The fourth Gu Huasha said. The four of them discussed, exchanging their cultivation experiences and understanding of the hearts and minds of all living beings in the world. All of them obtained new comprehensions and enormous benefit. These benefits could not be comprehended by a single person alone in the forest. As Gu Chensha made a grabbing motion, a golden power of vows and wishes coiled around his fingertip. He carefully savored it, and it was as if he could see millions of people making their oaths in unison. Their hearts were at ease, and they were all imagining a bleak future. There was also the will to work hard and pioneering spirit. This was an absolutely positive emotion, and it was even purer than the Emperor's qi. Everyone was united, working hard, broadening their horizons, and hoping for a better future. How could such a power of wishes be ordinary? The power of vows and wishes gathered by 10,000 people is already extremely great. After refining and fusing it into my body, it can quickly replenish my magic power, and it can also replenish the world's power. If the power of vows and wishes gathered by 1 billion people are gathered in this sphere every day, the speed at which it is replenished is almost equivalent to that of a deity-level expert. Gu Chensha sighed. As long as we continue to manage it, even if we are not deity-level experts, the power of vows and wishes gathered by all living beings in the world will be much stronger than what a deity-level expert condenses every day. In fact, even the power of a deity-level expert is not as pure and effective as the power of vows and wishes. If everyone is united, they can move mountains and fill the seas, and all sorts of great miracles can erupt. This was the benefit of refining power from the heart of all living beings. All living beings were definitely not ants, but the source of power, the end of chaos. In the chaos, a world was born, and in the world, all living beings were born. This was the so-called life. Gu Chensha had truly grasped a certain key point. He felt his spiritual sense surging, and almost in an instant, he could break through some kind of fog and reach the realm of divergent. It seems that managing the world and understanding all living beings is the true meaning of cultivation. He nodded, and his body suddenly split into 4. One body sat in the sphere of the people's wish, and used the heavenly Tao to condense the sphere of the people's wish into this mini kiliacosm every day. With him presiding over this mini kiliacosm, he could also eliminate all sorts of unstable factors. Otherwise, as the world grew bigger, the vitality it absorbed would be very heterogeneous. If he did not care about it, over time, evil spirits would be born. For example, if the god of wishes gave birth to its own consciousness, it would no longer be pure, and when that happened, it would no longer listen to Gu Chencha's commands. This was also an extremely bad thing. Gu Chensha would never allow such a thing to happen. The mini-kiliacosm was now equivalent to a country, and Gu Chensha was a country's emperor. He had to constantly govern, reorganize, and eliminate any unstable factors at all times. Finally, he could perfectly control this world. Otherwise, even if his own fish pond had not been cleaned for a long time, there might still be pythons and venomous insects hiding in it. There was also an incarnation who presided over the minor divine province, managing the overseas territory. The minor divine province was an important chess piece in his plan in the immortal Tao. Now, it also provided a large amount of vow power for the sphere of the people's wish, so it was not to be underestimated. The other incarnation assisted in the establishment of the Human Dragon Guild. With his help, Qin Han was gradually achieving success. Qin Han had the backing of an ancient Buddhist sect powerhouse. Gu Chencha's plan was to let the powerhouse of the ancient Buddhist sect collide with the devil calamity first, so that the tranquil deity department would not be at the forefront and buy time for the deity department's development. The other true body roamed the world and continued to monitor Wu Dankong, Gu Tanjian, the Crown Prince, Emperor Wu, the various aristocratic families, and various other powers. 3 incarnations and 1 true body, all of them had their own roles. Gu Chensha went all out to develop the world, manage the imperial court, and strengthen the calming celestial department's ability in all aspects. This was because he had reached the Tao Realm 23 transformation, reflect the past. Each time he cultivated, he would see the same unbelievable things as Zhugaya. The current world, the entire universe, shouldn't have existed. It was like everything was in a nightmare. In the past that he saw, it wasn't the past after Heaven Talisman Emperor was born. This made him feel a sense of danger. This was because in the past, there was no Heaven Talisman Emperor and there was no him. In other words, he was just a person in a dream and not a real body. This feeling made him really uncomfortable, but he was unable to find the truth of the entire world. Zhugaya said that there weren't many people in the world who could see through the past. Even saints found it hard to see through the truth and the fog. He cultivated the Heaven Path technique, so naturally, he would be able to see more than before. East Wasteland, Xian Gate. Tai Xiandu, Wenhong, and Chang Weiyang appeared in front of the 3 of them. Many scenes in the wilderness, ocean, and desert appeared. The 3 of them used their powers to display the situation in front of them. In their scrolls, Godland's Yonko suddenly had a huge amount of luck. It surged into the sky and seemed to be able to seep into other spaces. These bunch of little fellows are really amazing. Tai Xiandu praised. I obtained some experience of resisting the Heaven Path from Tai Mangdi, so I wouldn't be summoned by the Heaven Path. I can live for a few more years and can even use 80 to 90% of my strength. When one reached Saint Realm, one couldn't use all of one's strength, otherwise, one would be summoned by the Heaven Path and merge with it. This was why there were many restrictions on saints, and it wasn't easy at all. This was one aspect of the balance of the Heaven Path. If one's strength was too strong, one would definitely be restricted and killed by the Heaven Path. Chapter 536. The Heavenly Tao is getting more and more profound. This kid's achievements will be above ours in the future. I made the right move. Tai Xian stroked his beard. My son seems to have obtained many secrets, and his cultivation is rising. In the future, he might even have the potential to become a saint. Right now, the Celestial Pacification Department's common people's wish sphere has become a true minor kiliacosm, and it has accumulated a lot. If it continues like this, in a few decades, it will surpass our cosmic thunder pool and your celestial palace. Chang Weiyang said, "The destiny produced after the divine continent is unified is not something we can compare with. The divine continent is a key node. It is the absolute center of the universe." Wen Hong said, "There is an inconceivable divine power there. In order to increase the population, the Celestial Pacification Department is going all out. But the more they do this, the greater the calamity in the future. This is like drinking poison to quench thirst." Chang Weiyang sighed. "The earlier the demon calamity breaks out, the less harm it will cause. The world will have more time to breathe. Right now, the Celestial Pacification Department is doing everything possible to delay the demon calamity and increase the power of the people. This is like building a dam to stop a flood. The higher the dam, the greater the impact when it collapses. If I were in the Celestial Pacification Department's position, I might do the same. Because the Celestial Pacification Department is still weak, if the demon calamity breaks out early, the Celestial Pacification Department will be destroyed." Tai Xian said, "No matter what, let's just wait and see. We need to accumulate strength." Xing Qiong used the Divine Prefecture's 100th level technique to try to use the power of the Divine Prefecture. We all saw the phenomenon, but unfortunately, he was still suppressed. From this, we can see that the Celestial Talisman Great Emperor has a deeper plan. We don't need to worry. Even if the sky falls, there will be someone taller to hold it up. Even so, in the Great Calamity, the ones who die the most are those with insufficient cultivation. Wen Hong said, "Look at how many tribulations there have been. There have been countless wars between gods and demons, disasters of heaven and earth, battles between immortals and demons, conflicts between spirits and demons. Who knows how many gods and saints have died, but the three celestial venerables still stand. I wonder if the three great Empyreans will still be able to sit back and relax in this great calamity? But I feel that they are also in danger. In the countless catastrophes in history, the three great Empyreans have already come out to stir up the storm and control the situation. But this time, they didn't do so. Instead, they are holed up like turtles, and I don't know what they are doing." From this, it can be seen that they have also anticipated great danger. Chang Weiyang's magic power was the most profound. She was already at the pinnacle of the 36 transformations, embodiment transformation. Moreover, she was an anomaly. However, she was still unable to break through to the next layer and become an existence that was beyond the three realms and not within the five elements. Even if it was a divergent, it was only possible for him to break through this realm. It was not certain that he would succeed. Chang Weiyang was painstakingly exploring and cultivating, but she was still at her wits' end. The huge barrier in front of her was almost insurmountable. As long as she broke through to this realm, she would be able to know the secrets of the three celestial venerables. She would then push the universe's profound gate to the number one position and completely break the monopoly of the profound gate of heaven and earth in the immortal Tao. She now felt that if she wanted to break through, she would probably need to borrow the power of the calm immortal department in the future. I really want to see how far the calm immortal department can grow. Chang Weiyang was very much looking forward to this. She was especially optimistic about Gu Churnsha. However, she also felt some regret in her heart. If I had known, I would have befriended that Gu Taxian first. Who knows, I might have been able to obtain even more secrets from him. It was only now that many experts knew how powerful the heavenly talisman Great Emperor was. This time, when Xing Qiongshi activated the 100th level of the Divine Prefecture secret art, a ripple appeared in the Divine Prefecture. Ordinary people only felt the earth tremble slightly, as if there was some kind of earthquake. However, in the eyes of true deities and sages, it was like a huge wave that could shake the heavens and earth. Xing Qiongshi had returned, and she had even mastered the 100th level of the Divine Prefecture's secret art. Unfortunately, she had been defeated by the power left behind by the heavenly talisman Great Emperor. This sent back a message. The power left behind by the heavenly talisman Great Emperor was still there. No one dared to act recklessly. And borrowing this power, the calm immortal department activated all sorts of methods, once again pushing their reputation to a new peak. This could be said to be just right. Within the minor divine prefecture, cultivators were constantly being guided over from the eastern barren land. There were already 200,000 cultivators in the land with a circumference of several 100,000 li. This incarnation of Gu Chensha sat there, watching as the 200,000 cultivators continued to purify the living beings in the sea, expanding outwards. After the living beings in the sea gained intelligence, the first thing they did was to worship the sphere, making vows and making wishes, contributing their own wish power to the common people's wish sphere. Although the intelligence of the living beings in the sea was far inferior to that of humans, and the amount of wish power they contributed wasn't much, their numbers were great. A school of fish would be tens of millions, or even up to 100 million. The number of living beings in the sea was much greater compared to those on land. This was a region of great value, and there was naturally no way Gu Chensha would let it go. Moreover, under the management of the minor divine prefecture, countless spirit herbs began to be produced, planted, and condensed into arrays. The minor divine prefecture's enchantment became thicker and thicker. Ordinary people couldn't see anything, but if a cultivator used their mental energy to look, they would discover that the countless scriptures in the air had condensed into an enchantment. Those scriptures then condensed into god generals that could gather and disperse at will. Many grand arrays and magic power combined and seeped into the earth veins in the depths of the sea, becoming extremely stable from top to bottom. In a few more days, this minor divine prefecture's enchantment would probably not be able to be destroyed even by god generals. This sect on the sea gradually took shape. Next, they would have to rely on accumulation. Firstly, the cultivators in the minor divine prefecture would increase their strength and become geniuses. Secondly, the number of cultivators would increase. Thirdly, they would have to purify more living beings in the sea and gather more wish power, which snowballed. These three steps all required time. It was impossible to achieve them in one go. With Gu Chensha overseeing this place, he used all sorts of methods to make the hearts of the people united, allowing them to develop quickly and painstakingly. Governing a large country was like cooking a small fish. The wish sphere of common people was the foundation of the celestial tranquility department. The reason why it had condensed into a minor kiliacosm so quickly was because Gu Chensha had plundered primordial treasures everywhere and fused them. He had also stolen all the legalism savings, as well as a third of the Wu clan's martial saints' paradise's savings. With all these combined, the minor kiliacosm's current might was formed. He couldn't possibly use other primordial treasures to fuse into the minor divine prefecture. This was because the minor divine prefecture was just an immortal Tao alliance at the end of the day, a granary on the sea. It provided the wish power for the sphere, but not its foundation. Everything was for the sake of the minor kiliacosm. Refining this arcane treasure was the foundation. Xin Province. Gu Chensha's clone was helping Qin Han manage the Human Dragon League. At this time, the Human Dragon League's palace was built outside the Xin Province's city. Countless demons had become guardian Vajras. Now they had begun to reclaim the barren land and plant all sorts of spirit herbs. The Xin Province's land had begun to be abandoned because of the approaching devil calamity. Moreover, demons would come to invade from time to time. It had long been deserted, giving the Human Dragon League a chance to expand. The Buddhists had secret arts that could transform the soil eroded by devil chi into fertile land, turning demons into Buddhas. This was the foundation of the Human Dragon League. Now, the Human Dragon League was planting some ancient Buddhist plants, such as the seven-colored treasure lotus, the Vajra Buddha rice, and the Samadhi fruit tree. These were all grains and spirit herbs developed by the ancient Buddhist sect back then. They had special effects. Although they were far inferior to the human dragon pill, they could still greatly benefit ordinary people. After all, no matter how much the Celestial Tranquility Department produced, it was impossible for everyone in the world to eat the human dragon pill. Not to mention, besides the common people of the Yonko Divine Prefecture, there were also empires run by the immortal Tao mystic sects. For example, the countries run by the Cosmos mystic sects had hundreds of millions of people. All in all, the 72 immortal Tao mystic sects ran their own countries, although they weren't in the Central Divine Prefecture. If you counted them all, the population would be unimaginably huge. The experts of those countries would also send people to purchase the human dragon set, using many good things to exchange for it. So even though the Celestial Tranquility Department increased its production, it still couldn't meet the demand. This gave some of the other spirit herbs in the market space to survive. Otherwise, if everyone used the human dragon pill, there would basically be no market for the other herbs. The entire world's food and drink would be monopolized by the Celestial Tranquility Department. This wasn't something the Celestial Tranquility Department wanted to see. The Celestial Tranquility Department wanted to lead the people of the world to become independent and strong. Now, it was producing the human dragon pill, the human dragon armor, and the human dragon sword. On one hand, it was to trade for good things and do business to increase its strength. On the other hand, it was to contribute to the resistance against the Devil Calamity. Once the Devil Calamity was over, the Celestial Tranquility Department would naturally make adjustments. It wouldn't produce on a large scale, allowing the people of the world to support themselves and develop the best things according to their own ideas. President, our Human Dragon League is gradually on the right track. Large numbers of demons have begun to develop the Sin Province's wasteland and plant some Buddhist plants. Our Human Dragon League also has its own characteristics and is beginning to have income. In addition, the Celestial Tranquility Department will also provide the Human Dragon Pill and Heavenly Dew Pill every month. We've recruited many like-minded scholars. Now we have almost 10,000 members. In the Human Dragon League's temple, Gu Chunshao was discussing with Qin Han. This incarnation of his was called Fong Lin. Qin Han had long treated him as his right-hand man. This was because the entire Human Dragon League's relations with the outside world, business, planting, cultivating, recruiting scholars, managing the big and small matters of the League, and nurturing people were all handled by Fong Lin. If not for Fong Lin, Qin Han probably wouldn't have been able to maintain the Human Dragon League. Chapter 537. Brother Fong Lin, thank you for your help this time. If it weren't for you, I would have been in a terrible mess with the matters of the Human Dragon League. It seems like I'm really a useless scholar. In the past, when I was guiding the world, I thought that I was the hero of the world and that all the officials were useless. If I could govern the world myself, I would definitely prosper. But now, it seems like I can't even be an inspector. Qin Han listened to the report of Gu Chencha's incarnation of Fong Lin and saw the mountain of documents. He shook his head in distress. Gu Chensha also had some insights and emotions. These days, he had been busy managing the operations of the Human Dragon League. If not for his deep cultivation, which allowed him to multitask, this incarnation would have had a hard time handling matters. Fortunately, he had a broad vision and countless experiences. In the eyes of outsiders, the Fong Lin that he had transformed into was slick and cunning. He could often resolve all kinds of troubles and maintain a good relationship with many forces. President, just focus on cultivation. I'll take care of these miscellaneous matters. The most important thing now is to comprehend the secrets of that Buddha statue and unleash the might of a divine expert. Gu Chunsha said to Qin Han, "If this Buddha statue awakens and we understand its secrets, we can even find the various treasures left behind by the ancient Buddhist sect. At that time, strengthening the Human Dragon League will be just around the corner." Gu Chunsha had always wanted to obtain the secrets of the ancient Buddhist sect through that Buddha statue. It wasn't because he wanted to obtain treasures, but because the ancient Buddhist sect had many secret techniques and experiences that were worth learning from and gaining his own insight. He had a lot of knowledge now, but he was still learning. He was still very ignorant and shallow about the vast universe and the history of ancient times. At the very least, he didn't know anything about some prehistoric civilizations. What he needed to do now wasn't just his own cultivation, but to govern the world and unite the masses. This kind of pursuit was completely different from that of ordinary sages, true gods, and even the three heavenly venerables. The knowledge needed to govern the world was much greater than the knowledge needed to transcend cultivation. For example, even if the three heavenly venerables could jump out of the three realms and not be within the five elements, they couldn't ensure eternal peace. They were still far from being able to unite the masses. I've recently gained some insights from comprehending the Buddha statues, and I'm about to share them with you, brother. A beam of golden light shot out from between Qin Han's eyebrows, and a Buddha statue appeared in the depths of the golden light. This Buddha statue seemed to contain an ancient space-time secret map. Gu Chensha's mind moved and a surge of magic power was secretly transmitted over. His current heavenly Tao technique was much more exquisite than before. Not only had his cultivation level increased, but because of the heaven-defying mutated pill, there was almost no heavenly Tao binding him anymore. At this moment, the purity of his magic power was so pure that even a single strand of it was comparable to his previous full power. In other words, the strength of his current incarnation was only higher than the magic power of his original body, and the quality of his methods was even better. A bit of magic power was transmitted over, and immediately, the Buddha statue woke up once again. It emitted a boundless light that filled up the heavens and the earth. Everyone felt as if a god-level Buddha had once again descended into the mortal world. Many people with ulterior motives and thoughts about the Human-Dragon Association became fearful once again. And at this time, Gu Chunsha once again saw the depths of this Buddha statue. It seemed to be pointing towards the depths of space-time, to that place called the Ocean of Emptiness. He had already seen the map of that place last time, and this map was even clearer and seemed to be within easy reach. In fact, the Immortal Tranquility Department had already transformed the sphere of common people's wishes into a minor kiliacosm. And when a minor kiliacosm traversed through the turbulent flows of spacetime, it was far from what a god-level expert could compare to. Thinking about it, the ancient Buddha had said that 1,000 microscopic worlds added together would only form a minor kiliacosm. Wouldn't that be equivalent to 1,000 worlds created by a god-level expert? To make an analogy, the turbulent flows of spacetime were a huge ocean with harsh weather. Every single god-level expert was a fisherman, and they roamed in it naked. Even if they created a microscopic world, it would only be a small boat that couldn't withstand the wind and wave. But if they created a minor kiliacosm, it would be equivalent to creating a sturdy steel battleship that could cleave through the waves and roam through the turbulent flows of spacetime. In the past, it was impossible for Gu Chunsha to activate the sphere of common people's wishes to search for the depths of the turbulent flows of spacetime, to that place called the Ocean of Emptiness. But now, as long as he found some clues, this minor kiliacosm of the sphere of common people's wishes would have a chance to obtain the ancient Buddhist sect's treasures. I wonder, what level is the world created by the ancient Buddhist sect? Gu Chunsha circulated his magic power once again and saw the depths of the turbulent flows of spacetime. That place called the Ocean of Emptiness was in the depths of layers of space-time. It was unknown how many dimensional nodes there were. The space-time storms there were like ocean currents, incomparably ferocious. God-level experts were no different from ants in there, and in the depths of that ocean of emptiness, there seemed to be a golden island. The island blossomed with endless Buddhist light, suppressing everything. That golden island contained countless minor kiliacosms, and there were even medium-sized ones. That is, Gu Chensha was shocked. Could that be the great kiliacosm? Legend has it that the Supreme Buddha once opened up a pure land, created the Paramitha, and gathered all the power in an attempt to refine it into a great kiliacosm. I don't know if he succeeded, but as far as I know, he might not have succeeded. At the most critical moment of the transformation, the Buddhist sect encountered a disaster. Minor dust world, minor kiliacosm, medium-sized kiliacosm, great kiliacosm, and endless world. For these levels of worlds, the minor kiliacosm required several God-level experts to establish their own forces, develop countless disciples, and finally condense into a physical form after thousands of years of sacrifices and prayers. As for the medium-sized worlds, they required the convergence of the world's great luck. Countless God-level experts and sages worked together and experienced countless fortuitous encounters. Only then could they undergo transformation from the prehistoric era to the present. Among the current forces, only the Black Heaven-Earth sect could be considered a true medium-sized world. If the minor kiliacosms were steel battleships in the turbulence of time and space, then the medium-sized worlds were water fortresses. 1,000 minor kiliacosms were more or less a medium-sized world. The great kiliacosm was different. The condensation of this world was not something that could be forged by humans. It was most likely created by the chaos of the Big Bang. In the depths of a great kiliacosm, there were endless space-time. The so-called great kiliacosm originally meant all-encompassing. In many ancient memories, there were traces of the great kiliacosm in the turbulence of time and space. There were also powerful creatures in that great kiliacosm. The three celestial venerables worked together to create a great kiliacosm. They had always wanted to turn this great kiliacosm into a great kiliacosm, but they had not succeeded. And in the endless world, it was the endless continent where Gu Chensha and the other immortal path mysterious sects lived. No one could explore the borders, and it was not something that the three celestial venerables could create. It seems that the ancient Buddha founded the Buddhist sect and gathered many experts to forge countless treasures in order to create a great kiliacosm. They still did not succeed, but there seems to be hope. If our calmness deity department can obtain this golden island. Gu Chensha thought to himself, but he shook his head. He felt that it was impossible. The calmness deity department's life's wish sphere had become a minor kiliacosm, but compared to the great kiliacosm, it was just a speck of dust. Now, he was like an ant that saw a dead elephant and wanted to carry the elephant back to its nest to enjoy. How could that be possible? Compared to the golden island created by the ancient Supreme Buddha, the life's wish sphere itself was like an ant, and the island was like a dead elephant. The three celestial venerables definitely want this golden island, Gu Chensha said, but they might not know where the island is. There are many time gaps in the great ocean of space, and they are constantly jumping. Without the coordinates and the spacetime key, it is impossible to find the key. So, the three celestial venerables seem to have their eyes on the primordial tree, wanting to obtain more treasures from it. He had comprehended many things this time. This Buddha statue was indeed a fallen Buddhist sect big shot, but from a certain point of view, this Buddha statue was also a spacetime key. Only by obtaining this key could one reach the Golden Island and obtain the Buddhist sect's treasures. Qin Han was the successor of the Buddhist sect, and it was possible that he could obtain the right to inherit the Golden Island. Gu Chunxia slowly retracted his magic power, and the golden light of the Buddha statue receded bit by bit. In the end, it turned into a golden pendant the size of a thumb, and entered Qin Han's sea of consciousness between his eyebrows. After this round of activation, Qin Han's strength increased a lot again. In truth, during these past few days, Gu Chunxia had used the Buddha statue more or less to increase Qin Han's cultivation base. However, he hadn't used it as intensely as this time. With the nourishment of the Buddha statue, Qin Han's cultivation base increased rapidly. In fact, Gu Chunxia had a vague feeling that if Qin Han's cultivation base reached a certain point, he could use the Buddha statue to communicate with the Golden Island in the great ocean of space, and obtain its power. For example, although Zhuge Ye couldn't obtain the world-burying coffin, he could communicate with it and obtain its power. That was how he had defeated Jing Qiu and foiled his plot to overthrow the world. Of course, this would require Gu Chenxia's help. The world-burying coffin had been refined by the Lord of Seven Stars for many years, but it was still a minor chiliocosm. After Jiang Gongwang's death, there were no disciples or sects to offer sacrifices to him. However, the world-burying coffin contained enormous amounts of world energy and all sorts of ancient treasures. It was definitely at the pinnacle of a minor chiliocosm. After obtaining it, all one needed to do was refine it a bit to establish a foundation for a minor chiliocosm. That was why the Celestial Calmness Department had to obtain it. Once they did, they could combine it with the common life's wish sphere to create a minor chiliocosm that could rival the Black Gate of heaven and earth. Of course, the world-burying coffin couldn't compare to the Golden Island. The Golden Island had been created by the boundless Buddha and countless powerhouses of the ancient Buddhist sect. They had spent countless years spreading their teachings throughout countless planes of existence. The boundless Buddha was in existence even more powerful than the Maha God, and was roughly on the same level as the three celestials. As for the Lord of Seven Stars, Jiang Gongwang, he hadn't been able to transcend the three realms. Chapter 538. If I can think of a way to use the Buddha statue's spacetime key to communicate with the power of the Golden Island and inject it into the world's burial coffin, we'll probably be able to reduce thousands of years of cultivation. Gu Chunxia calculated in his heart. Now, Xing Qianxiong was working with Jiang Qi to make the final preparations. The altar was already built. These two experts had killed countless terrifying demons in the demon domain and delayed the outbreak of the demon disaster. They had helped the calming immortal department a lot. Gu Chunxia and Zhuge Ye had set up a trap in Xing Qianxiong's body. However, there was nothing in the world that was foolproof. If it was just Xing Qianxiong and Jiang Qi's arrangement, then there was nothing to worry about. However, there was still the Xing Qiong clan behind them. This person had activated the 100 Divine Prefecture Great Arts. Even without revealing his true body, he had almost destroyed the martial saints' paradise. The might of the 9 gods, martial monarchs, and even the martial saints' will was still vivid in his mind. Gu Chunxia believed that if it wasn't for the power left behind by the Heavenly Talisman Emperor to suppress the Divine Prefecture Great Arts and allow the Xing Qiong clan to completely activate the 100 Divine Prefecture Great Arts, everything about the Wu clan would have been completely wiped out. With a single punch, this clan that had existed for 7,000 or 8,000 years would have vanished. Their minor chiliocosm would have been shattered and turned into dust. The martial saints' will, King Wu Yu, the 9 gods, and martial monarchs were all paper. Only Wu Dankong, who was hiding in the Sun-Moon sacrificial altar, could escape this calamity. That attack had allowed Gu Chunxia to truly see the supreme might of the Xing Qiong clan as the ancient divine prefecture's #1 fierce beast. If the Wu clan had been replaced with the legalism sect, the outcome would have been the same. Hence, even the calming immortal department's minor chiliocosm wasn't very stable. It seems like I still have to plot everywhere to strengthen the minor Kiliakosm's power and even think of a way to meet that immortal master? Gu Chensha still had many things to do. Just as he was plotting. In the savage land there was still no developed land. There were barbarian tribes everywhere, as well as newly built temples. The barbarians had been forced to retreat by the Yonko. They had retreated hundreds of thousands of miles and lost a large number of their tribes. This was the worst defeat the barbarians had suffered since ancient times. Since ancient times, even the most brilliant emperors could only defeat the main force of the barbarians outside the borders of the divine continent, but they did not dare to pursue them deep into the wilderness. As long as they recuperated, the barbarians could make a comeback and invade the divine continent. Unfortunately, it was different this time. The heavenly talisman Great Monarch first built the Great Wall of Stone to stabilize the foundation of the divine continent. Then, with a thunderous momentum, he sealed the evil gods and barbarian saints of the barbarian race, causing all the high-end combat forces to disappear. In this way, the rise of the calming immortal department caused the barbarian race to be unable to retaliate. The demons, along with the barbarians, were also dispirited. For example, the ape tribe had lost their tribe leader and the 10-battle monarch. The myriad demon-human transformation diagram, a Khanate treasure, had also been taken away. The 3 divine apes had to swallow their anger. However, in the depths of the wildlands, there were many figures of the devil race. It seemed that the devil race and the barbarians had joined forces. On the peak of an extremely high mountain, a middle-aged man and a 13- or 14-year-old child were observing the overall fate and layout of the barbarians. At this time, the 13- or 14-year-old child pointed below and said, "Master, the devil race and the devil race have communicated. They seem to be preparing for a counterattack." This child was the son of the Gu Xianxia crown prince, Gu Changjian. Gu Changjian's master was naturally the recently returned Dharma saint, whose power shook the ancient times. At this time, the Dharma saint was wearing a brocade robe. He looked like a knowledgeable Confucian. No one could tell that this person was actually the head of the many saints of the ancient human race. The school of legalism that he founded had occupied the first position in the world. Its position had never been shaken, just like the black gate of heaven and earth in the immortal Tao. "Do you think the devil race and barbarian race's counterattack will have any effect?" asked the Dharma saint, as if he was testing Gu Changjian. "Disciple, I'm afraid that they will return empty-handed. Many of the evil gods are still sealed, such as the chaotic demonic ape, the sun-devouring Bash, the hell serpent, the barbarian saint, and even the Maha god. They are all completely imprisoned in unknown places. Without the support of these true gods, the barbarians are like flowers in a mirror and the moon in the water. It will be difficult for them to even survive in the wildland." Gu Changjian pointed at the endless barbarian empire and the devil race in the distant mountains. "The foundation of the barbarians is that everyone can kill prey and offer sacrifices to the evil gods to obtain power. With their strong physiques, they can resist the climate of the wildland. But now, no matter how many prey the barbarians kill, they can't get a response from the evil gods. Their physiques are weak, and they aren't good at medicine or manufacturing. Even if the imperial army doesn't encircle them, they will still be unable to adapt to the conditions of the wildlands. But now, the entire Yonko is changing with each passing day. Then are you willing to lead these barbarians to prosperity?" the Dharma saint asked Gu Changjian. Gu Changjian was shocked. "Master, how can I lead these barbarians?" "I will support you." The Dharma saint pointed at the vast wildlands, the mountains, the rivers, and the earth. The barbarian tribes are endless, scattered in the depths of the wildlands. If you want to add all of them together, their population is much higher than the Yonko. Among them, there is no lack of outstanding figures. If you can gather all these barbarians, integrate them, and rule them, you will be able to obtain the blessing of the heavens and earth, and become a great empire. Your cultivation will then truly improve, and that mysterious bloodline in your body will be stimulated. This is too difficult. It's like rebuilding the rivers and mountains. This disciple doesn't have such great ambitions, but since Master supports this disciple will do it. Gu Changjian finally made up his mind. Very well, I will use my magic power to disguise you as a barbarian. The Dharma saint said, you can also communicate with me at all times. With my support, you will defeat your enemies one by one, and establish a brand new order among the barbarians, establishing the prestige of my school of legalism. Yes, this disciple will definitely do that. Gu Changjian didn't dare to go against the Dharma saint. He knew that although the Dharma saint had accepted him as a disciple, he was actually making use of him. If he didn't agree, he was afraid that the outcome would be very ugly. This also showed that the Dharma saint had taken a fancy to the barbarians, and wanted to establish order and laws among them. Then, all these barbarians would worship the Dharma saint. Then, how powerful would the Dharma saint be? This was the grand scheme of the Dharma saint. And only he could do it. Great plan, Lord Dharma saint. At that moment a voice rang out. It appeared on the mountain peak, but no one could be seen. The Dharma saint frowned slightly, then relaxed. So it's the successor of the immortal master. Come on out. As he said that, a woman suddenly appeared. This woman seemed to be in her 20s, and she wore a pure white dress. She walked with the wind like a fairy in the clouds. After the woman appeared, she bowed slightly. I'm Gu Huansha. Greetings, Lord Dharma saint. Gu Huansha. Gu Changjian said fiercely. There's no such person in our royal family. The Dharma saint stopped Gu Changjian from speaking, then nodded. Very good. Seems like you're the daughter of the immortal master and Gu Taxian? Recently, the Celestial Designer Institute has been accumulating in the dark, and their style has changed. The things they produce have a taste of the prehistoric civilization. Was it because of you? You snuck into the Celestial Designer Institute. Seems like the two little fellows from the demonic path, Ghost Axe and Spirit Craftsman, have joined you? Ghost Axe and Spirit Craftsman were the master of the demonic Taoist ancestor. They were old antiques. However, in the mouth of the Dharma saint, they were naturally little fellows. Lord Dharma saint is indeed an ancient saint. Moreover, he was reborn after a calamity and cultivated the 9 true dragon technique, which is the closest to the heavenly Tao technique. If it wasn't for the fact that the last level has not been perfected, I'm afraid his current strength is comparable to any of the 3 celestial masters. Gu Huanshao wasn't afraid of the power of the Dharma saint. The Dharma saint seemed to be extremely afraid of the immortal master. The immortal master is an existence that the 3 celestial masters can't do anything about. He has existed since ancient times. Even the god Maha could become the king of the evil gods and the master of all gods because of the immortal master's support. Otherwise, the god Maha wouldn't have been able to spread his might across countless demonic territories. I didn't expect that the immortal master actually has fate with that Gu Taxian. This is an old matter. Lord Dharma saint doesn't need to pry into other people's privacy. Gu Huanshao was slightly surprised. It seems like the Dharma saint intends to support this little fellow to become the master of the wildlands? Obtain the supreme fate from the unseen world? Since ancient times, no one has been able to truly unify the many barbarian tribes in the wildlands. Even that barbarian saint was only able to educate them. He's still lacking a little in order to unify the barbarian tribes and become the master of the wildlands. The position of the master of the wildlands has been vacant for a long time. Rumor has it that as long as one becomes the master of the wildlands, all the barbarians will submit to him. Then, they will perform a sacrifice and receive the supreme fate from the depths of the wildlands continent. It seems like the Dharma Saint wants to rely on this to use all his law realms to accommodate the Wildlands continent. In the end, all the law realms will have the hope to advance into the boundless world. It seems like nothing can be hidden from the Immortal Master, the Dharma Saint said. It seems like the Immortal Master also has his eyes on this Wildlands continent. However, if he wants to separate this vast and boundless wildlands from the land of infinity and include all the fate veins of the earth that have existed since ancient times, it will not be easy. Even becoming the master of the wildlands is not an easy thing to do. If you can separate my father's bloodline and use it as a sacrifice, I'm afraid the problem will be solved easily. That's why the Dharma Saint has taken this little fellow as his disciple. However, why don't you care about Gufa Shah's son or himself? Gufa Shah also has the bloodline of your legalism. With the Dharma Saint's realm, you wouldn't be reluctant to give up such a descendant, right? Gu Huansha did not understand the Dharma Saint's actions. I have my own plans for this matter. The Dharma Saint put his hands behind his back. Accommodating the wildlands is my plan. Did the Immortal Master send you here to ruin my great plan? Since that's the case, although I'm not talented, I still want to fight with the Immortal Master and compete. The Dharma Saint has misjudged my mother. My mother doesn't care about this Wildlands continent. She doesn't even want to compete with the Divine Continent, Gu Huansha said. Then what does the Immortal Master want? The Dharma Saint was confused. Chapter 539. The Dharma Saint heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Gu Huansha's words. In that case, Immortal Master and I are friends and not enemies. I see that you are hiding in the Heavenly Craftsman Institute and secretly fighting against the Department of Tranquility? Are you here to cooperate with me? I didn't expect Lord Dharma Saint to be afraid of the Department of Tranquility. Gu Huansha smiled faintly. Lord Dharma Saint is the leader of the ancient 7 great saints. You are very knowledgeable and even used the great change of heaven and earth to break free from the shackles of the heavenly Tao and resurrect. Your means are simply earth-shattering. Wouldn't it be easy for you to capture the insignificant Department of Tranquility? Don't underestimate those juniors. The Dharma Saint said solemnly, those juniors have great potential. Recently, Gu Huasha and Lu Baiyu as juniors have also become natural-born saint. It is very likely that they will activate Gu Taxian's bloodline. This bloodline has the power to shake heaven and earth and twist the heavenly Tao. I wonder if you have activated it? Well, it's better that Lord Dharma Saint doesn't know about it. Gu Huansha pretended to be mysterious. My father's bloodline is naturally unique in the world. Even Lord Dharma Saint has designs on it. If Lord Dharma Saint obtains it, I'm afraid you will truly break free from the shackles of the heavenly Tao. What kind of existence is Gu Taxian? The Warlock Saint said. I don't think the Celestial Master is clear about it either. However, according to my calculations, he does not exist in this world at all. He also does not exist in any of the spacetime and the river of time that has existed since ancient times. The reality that we are in now is a nightmare. From this point of view, it is also possible that you do not exist. With Immortal Master's cultivation, I'm sure she knows this. Why is she so stubborn? The Dharma Saint is indeed a supreme saint who transcends the world. He can actually see through the essence of the world. However, no one knows the truth. My mother said that what she sees now might not be the truth. How could she not know that we are in a dream within a dream? Perhaps this is the real thing, and what you've seen might be an illusion. Gu Huansha smiled. There is no benefit in thinking about these things. Why don't we talk about our cooperation? Cooperate? Immortal Master, how do you want to cooperate with me? The Dharma Saint asked. Didn't Lord Dharma Saint want to support this kid to become the Wildlands Lord? I think that if the people from the Calming Immortal Department knew about this, they would definitely object. Besides, there are other pawns in the wilderness, such as Li Wanlong, Wenhong, and even the black-yellow dragon emperor. Other than that, there are also some old antiques in the depths of the Patriarch. Even the primogenitor of all demons, the North Star Emperor, is involved. There are many demon gods and demon saints in the devil race. To clean up the situation among so many complicated forces, get rid of the false and retain the true, and seize the throne, I think that no matter how powerful Lord Dharma Saint is, it will be difficult for him to continue. If he pulls one hair, it will affect the whole body. If he has my mother's help, it will be much easier, Gu Huansha said. All right. The Dharma Saint agreed without hesitation, which surprised Gu Huansha. Lord Dharma Saint sure is straightforward. Aren't you afraid that we will plot something? Gu Huansha asked. It's fine. Given the current situation, this is the only way. If I don't agree, the Celestial Master will definitely have other tricks up her sleeves. Besides, although the Celestial Master is famous in the primordial era, I am not really afraid of her. Little girl, there are some things that you don't understand. I can see that your cultivation is not far from the God realm. You have cultivated to the 29 changes and comprehended the realm of chaos. But even if you become a God realm expert, you have only just opened the door to the world. As the Dharma Saint spoke, he was neither anxious nor impatient. He never showed any emotion, and he didn't lower his guard just because the other party was a junior. The Dharma Saint is indeed the Dharma Saint. In time, he will indeed be able to fight against the 3 Celestial Masters. Gu Huansha laughed. The 3 Celestial Masters have been accumulating strength for many years. If I were to fully recover my cultivation, I would be able to fight evenly with any Celestial Master without the help of treasures. But the 3 Celestial Masters' world has already reached the peak of a medium-class world. They are advancing towards the true Great Thousand World. It is impossible for me to fight against them. The Dharma Saint knew the details. Little girl, you don't need to flatter me. Tell me, how do you want to cooperate? If this kid wants to establish his own force, he won't be able to do so without a huge financial support. From now on, my Celestial Designer Institution will fully support him. How about it? Gu Huansha said. Can you completely control the Celestial Designer Institution? The Dharma Saint asked. The Celestial Designer Institution was originally established with the help of my mother. Back then, Ghost Axe and Divine Designer, the 2 great demon Taoist ancestor, were also disciples under my mother. It is reasonable for me to come back and take over the Celestial Designer Institution. Moreover, I am also a member of the royal family. In other words, I can be considered a princess with great Yonko. Gu Huansha looked around. Although I am not interested in the imperial court, the world is becoming more and more heated. There is nothing wrong with coming to play for a while. Are you playing with the mentality of playing? The Dharma Saint shook his head. Once you enter the world of mortals, the 5 skandhas will be lost. It will not be easy to escape. It is difficult to sever the karma of all living beings. As long as you have a thought, you have already fallen into the trap. That is a story for later. Gu Huansha said, let us sign an agreement and evaluate the wilderness. If all the barbarians in the wilderness are united and their wills are unified, we will be able to trigger the true will of the entire wilderness after a few great ceremonies. Although it is not as strong as the will of the divine continent, it is enough to tear the sky apart. My mother does not need it, but I do need it to activate the bloodline in my body. I can also store enough resources before I advance to the God level. After I advance to the God level, I will quickly turn the microscopic world into a minor kiliocosm. How about we divide the wilderness equally? Sure. The Dharma Saint only said one word. Very good. Straightforward. Gu Huansha took out an agreement. There were many clauses on it. The Dharma saint scanned it and signed his name on it with a snap of his fingers. Immediately, some sort of mysterious agreement was born. Other than the Dharma saint's name, the Immortal Master's name was also on the agreement. After signing the agreement, Gu Huanshao was very satisfied. She took out another agreement and handed it to the Dharma saint. Then, her body suddenly distorted and she disappeared without a trace. Master? Are you really going to sign an agreement with this woman? Let her assist me to become the master of the wilderness? Gu Changjian asked. Of course. If you receive the support of the Heavenly Craftsman Institute, it will be easier for you to unify the barbarians and seize the position of the master of the wilderness. When that time comes, you will truly achieve great things. The Dharma saint pointed below. Look at the barbarians and the demons. In fact, the difference between them is that the barbarians have demonic nature, but they also have spiritual nature. I have been carrying out the spirit and demon integration plan. The barbarians are actually the product of the spirit and demon integration. I will now teach you the spirit and demon integration technique. You can perform this technique and turn any demon into a barbarian. Thank you, Master. Waves of mysterious thoughts entered Gu Changjian's consciousness. Then, Gu Changjian's appearance turned into that of a barbarian. Next, it's up to you. The barbarians are vast. It will depend on your own management. Even with the support of me and the Immortal Master, it will not be easy for you to obtain the position of the Master of the Barbarians. After the Dharma saint was done, he disappeared. When the Dharma saint disappeared completely, Gu Changjian sneered. Lord Dharma saint, it seems that you and the Immortal Master are waiting for me to become the Master of the wilderness. That will be the time to harvest me. I can't control my own fate now. Everything is decided by you. I can't make my own decisions. How can I be willing to live such a life? Luckily, my father was prepared and informed the three celestial masters. Even as he spoke, Gu Changjian pulled out a talisman and dripped some blood onto it. Instantly, the talisman flickered and a beam of light shot out, transforming into the body of a middle-aged man. He wore a suit of armor and seemed to be an ancient god. Disciple pays his respects, emissary of the tranquil god, Gu Changjian said, dropping to his knees. Very good. I know what you're doing. I'll report this to the Celestial Master. I never would have guessed that the Dharma Saint would join forces with the Immortal Master, and that the Immortal Master and Gu Taxian have a daughter named Gu Huansha. The emissary of the Nether God said, You did well. Now, follow the plan and seize the position of the Wildlands Lord. I will support you. I will also pass on a precious treasure to you. As he spoke, the void suddenly split open, and a beam of light shot out, transforming into a disc-shaped magical treasure. This is a fragment of a prehistoric object, which the three celestial masters obtained and refined into a magical treasure. It's called the Good Fortune Jade Disc, and it contains all sorts of profound mysteries. It can gather the power of the hearts of all living beings. In the future, when you recruit the barbarians, you will worship this object. It can replace the heretic god and give the barbarians power. At the same time, it can also give you power. Many thanks, Celestial Master. Many thanks, Tranquil God. Gu Changjian's heart trembled. He knew that the three celestial masters were also plotting something, and that the Good Fortune Jade Disc in his hand was most likely something the three celestial masters would use to absorb the faith of the barbarians. Now that the barbarians had lost the power to worship, even if they killed their prey and sacrificed their blood to the heretic god, they wouldn't be able to sense anything. If he appeared out of nowhere and led the barbarians to worship the Good Fortune Jade Disc, he would be able to gain a lot of faith, which would snowball. But if he did that, the Dharma Saint would probably find out. The Dharma Saint didn't mean for him to follow the old path of the barbarians, but to educate the barbarians and use the law and order that the Dharma Saint had created to rectify the barbarians. However, he believed that he could handle this matter well. The three celestial masters, the immortal master, and the Dharma saint are all using me, but I can also use my wisdom to restrain you all, so that I can develop and grow in the cracks, and reach the point where I can truly succeed. None of you will be able to restrain me. Gu Changjian was thinking about something else. The peaceful god laughed coldly. You're on your own. When working for the three celestial masters, you must finish what you started. If you betray them, neither you nor your father will have a good ending. You'll be begging for death. This disciple understands. Gu Changjian's heart trembled. The peaceful god's body disappeared. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.